Dun, 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 dun.
Good
There's you,
evening.
you sipping your tea.
Oh, I needed a little
Brewski.
a little drinkage.
How goes it?
How goes it? Snyder cut.
Snyder Cut. Zack Snyders Justice League. I'm never going to call it that. I'm never going to call it Zack Snyders Justice League. It'll always be just the Snyder Cut.
Yeah,
Always.
it will be. Brandon.
Well, yeah. Let's so what we're going to do, we'll just go straight into it because I can imagine this could potentially be quite a long one.
Yeah.
Because there's just how much there is to talk about. What we're going to do is we are going to be reviewing, I will say it properly this time, Zack Snyder's Justice League. We will be reviewing it, and we're not going to be alone. It's not just going to be me and Nick. We do have some special guests joining us, and they're not in just yet, but when they get in, we'll put them on screen. Obviously, we won't just leave them in the wings. So we're going to break it because there is so much to talk about. It feels only right that we kind of just break it down so that there's a little bit of structure to the conversation, because if there isn't, we could just be talking all night. I think that's fair to say, right?
Exactly.
So we will be going over many, many different categories, those being the length of the movie. As we all know, it was quite a long movie. What we think of the overall story, our thoughts on each of the different characters, including the villains, all the different characters within the Justice League, and the nightmare scene, the Joker, what our favorite moments are, action. So there's going to be quite a few different categories. So we'll try and get through them. When Andy and Alex get on the stream, what we'll do is we'll take it in turns to discuss each part rather than just trying to fight to get on top of each other. Just for ease more than anything.
So everyone gets their own sort of opinion across.
Yes.
In terms of what they're going to say.
Yes. So I know that we're going to be talking about this, but I think it would be, if anyone's watching back, I think it would be remiss of us not to mention how much of a fun night Friday night was with the awards. It was great, and I know for anyone that's watching that was there, they will echo that. And Nick got nominated for a Sexy Man Award. Sexy Man Award. And Brandon, who's in the chat, actually won Sexy Man Award. So
the Da Vinci winner.
So whilst we're trying to kill some time to wait for Andy and Alex, me and Nick will just kind of we'll fill some time really. We'll sing a little song, and no, we won't sing a song. We won't sing a song. That's not what's going to happen. We will kind of just sit here and just kind of like talk about what we thought of it and just give our kind of overall assessment overall, just whilst we're waiting for Andy and Alex to show up. So Nick, let's talk about your expectations going into this movie then, because obviously this has been a long time waiting. For those of you that don't know or do know, the original, call it the original Justice League came out in 2017, so 4 years ago. So it feels like a lifetime ago now that movie came out. And there's been a lot of petitioning, a lot of fan love for what was to come that we thought would never happen. So what were your expectations of this leading up to this?
Hey, Tara. So my expectations were, me and Dan did a video on this. It was either a year or 2 years ago. Just talking about what is the Snyder Cut, and we want to see it, and we were sort of advocating this sort of release the Snyder Cut. So my expectations were basically it being a bit more fleshed out, a bit darker, less humor, and just a bit more streamlined.
And did you ever think at any point that we would get the full 4 hours when it was announced way back?
No, I never thought it would be as long as it is. I thought it would be just your run of the mill, your 2 hours, your 2.5 hour type of film. But yeah, when it came out at 4 hours, I was like, there must be a hell of a lot that's missing from this. So yeah. What about you?
Did you know when you heard that it was going to be 4 hours? Did that make you worry, or did that make you
not at all
excited?
Excited.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I thought so. Me too. But we're geeks, so we're always going to be excited about that. So we do have one guest in already. I've just had a message from Andy saying he's having issues with his laptop. So we'll add Alex to the stream now, and let's see how Alex is. Mr. Alex.
Evening, boys. How are we?
How are you
doing?
Pretty good, all things considered. Pretty good. How's the stream going so far? How far in have we got?
We're not. We're literally
we're barely even scratching the surface of this baby.
We're not. We're just killing some time just while we get everyone on stream. We're just kind of talking about Nick's expectations of what he was expecting before leading up to this over the last 4 years.
Sure.
Given the fact that none of us were really that greatly impressed with the original. I'm going to call it the original now. I don't know how else to categorize it. Like,
call it whatever you want. Call it Justice League.
Justice League.
Justice is the name.
I feel a bit cringe calling it Justice League.
Yeah, you should. It's terrible.
I'm going to call it the original. I'm going to, for the purposes of tonight's stream, I'm calling it the original.
Sure.
So Nick just kind of explained that he wasn't expecting 4 hours. He was expecting it to kind of really be like 2.5 hours, but he was expecting it to make more sense, be more streamlined, have a little bit more emphasis on action, which is kind of what we got, to be fair, but we just got a very much extended version of that. I'll ask you the same. What were your expectations of this leading over the last from the point that you knew that this was going to be a thing?
Yeah. I mean, expectations is a difficult thing, isn't it? Because it's like expectations were, okay, we knew it was going to be longer. We just didn't have any idea on how much longer it would be. We had that teaser of 214 minutes from 2018 or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then an extra half an hour has been found from somewhere. So we always knew it was going to be a lengthy thing. I guess, Snyder has history of this, of director's cuts being substantially longer than the Batman vs Superman, that was an extra half an hour, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it went from 2.5.
And that was already I felt like that was already a pretty weighty film in terms of runtime.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of geared ourselves up for it's going to be long. It's just a case of I don't think anyone really predicted
4 hours
until that announcement was made exactly how long.
Yeah. And I asked Nick the question, and I'll ask you the same question. When you heard it was going to be 4 hours long, did it fill you with dread or did it fill you with optimism?
Well, it's an interesting question because I think at the point that they announced that it was going to be 4 hours long, that was the point that they told us that, it's going to be a mini series and it's going to be released in parts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if it was done that way, I could completely understand it, and it kind of made sense from that perspective. As a one sort of, a one chunk thing, it makes less sense. But I can understand that if this is the way he wanted to put it out, then this is the way he gets to put it out. Okay. But it seems strange that they went, it's going to be a TV series, and then also it's not going to be that now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think what we'll do is Andy's obviously having some issues, so I think we'll start without him, and when he'll eventually get in and we can catch him up. So I was explaining before, Alex, that we're going to try and break this into kind of chunks to make it a little bit more manageable, so it's not so all over the place.
Sure.
So I think a good segue into this then is to start with the overall length of the movie, considering that's what we've just been talking about.
Shall we go over the introduction for Alex?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. We made a little intro for you and Andy. Now, because you are such fans of a particular moment in Zack Snyder's universe of Batman and Superman. We made this very, very short, very brief intro for you that you can take away with you and be happy with. So we'll play it for you now. Nick, do you want to do the honors?
Yeah, it didn't take me long, Alex. It was probably like all of 2 seconds to make it. So brace yourself when I get to it.
The anticipation is killing me.
Why did you say that, Nick?
That's it.
That's the introduction to Alex and Andy's podcast.
That's it. That's how we're going now. From any time that we have a review and you guys are jumping on, that's how we're going to introduce you.
It is a really good line, though. Because it's a genuine question that everyone in the audience had. Why did you say that name? And it turns out that both of them are called Martha, and that's just fine. Was that a lack of creativity at DC when they started writing their characters? They were like, we need a mum character, Martha.
That's it. I think it's probably fair to say that this is your spoiler warning now. If you've not seen it, we are going to be talking spoilers in this episode.
Nick, we
have the other half.
Together a spoiler warning as well, Nick.
Say again?
I feel like you should have like a spoiler alarm thing you've made as well.
Yes, yeah, we don't have one of those. So, what was your spoiler klaxon that we had on the podcast, Alex?
I'm not doing that again. It's fine.
Okay, that's cool. That's fine.
Andy, did you see their intro for us?
I literally just saw. Yeah, I had the stream loaded up.
Just needed to double check.
Do you want to see it just again? Do you want to see it?
Yeah, why not?
One more time.
Why did you say that, Nick?
Just for you guys. We know how much you love it. So yeah.
We loved in the previous one. I was really hoping it was going to be the Bruce line when he's like, "What if you're stronger than a planet?"
Good line.
Can't believe they took it out. Spoilers.
I can't believe I didn't choose that as my best moment of 2017. That's because I'd forgotten about that line.
So what we'll do is, like I said, we'll go into the first kind of category of discussion now, and we will. I think the best way to do it is just give everyone their own say. So we'll go through kind of like a clockwise, however you want to do it. But like I said, best segue into it is to talk about the length of it, because that's what we were just talking about. But we'll talk about the length, overall length, and the pacing of it throughout. So we have guests in. I think it would be very rude of us if we didn't allow them to go first. So who wants to go first to talk about what you thought about the overall length or the pacing?
You want to drop in, Andy?
I suppose.
Okay, so the first question is, do you think it needed to be 4 hours long?
No.
Very,
in no
very
way
distinct answer, thank
you.
you.
In no way did it have to be. It was made 4 hours, and I'm not sure why. It's a film that basically is bloated. It is... Like, there's moments in this film, but I'm watching it, I'm going... Why do I need an Icelandic choir to sing for me for 5 minutes? Why do I need to see Bruce Wood? I keep wanting to say Bruce Willis, Bruce Wayne, climb over a mountain. Like, what does that give me? Why are you slowing everything down? My thing about this is this was supposed to be Snyder's ultimate vision. Like, this was what he was going to say. Like, this was always going to be what he was going to put out. And I do not believe him at all. Because there is no way you put a 4-hour film out in cinemas for a comic book movie. And that's what it ostensibly is. There's no way you put that cut out. So I can't believe this was ever going to be his cut.
No, I think he said there was a 2.5-hour version, which was going to be the cinema version. But then, because he's got all that additional stuff, that's why he's took it to the 4-hour.
But what does that add? Like... Of all the stuff that he's put in, we'll get into like certain things later on, but kind of like, do I feel it needed to be 4 hours? No. Did it feel like 4 hours? Yes. Yes, it did.
Okay. Alex, let's. I imagine that you're okay. Just for clarity, there's probably going to be a difference in opinion here between the dinosaur men And
Top and
We're here,
bottom.
baby. We're here to balance.
so, Alex, same question.
I mean, look, did it need to be 4 hours long? Absolutely not. There's, there are big chunks of this movie where I'm going, hey, I mean, I'm sure the fans are loving the fact that you've got this unnecessary scene of the singing Icelandic choir, because I believe they're from the comic books, right? They're the first ever DC heroes.
I do not know.
But hey, I'm willing to believe that he just made them up just because he wanted to have a cool choir singing a song and sniffing a jumper. But
that's what Momoa does to you.
Hey,
He makes you sing and
it's
have a jumper.
It's the only moment we get that really implies that Aquaman is any kind of charismatic this time round. So hey, I guess we'll take it. But aside from that scene, there are scenes scattered throughout where you're going, the purpose of this scene they'll allege that it's a character moment or to show character depth, and yet a lot of the scenes will do nothing more than just pad out that runtime and give you a little bit more time looking at some very video gamey special effects. And I think for me, I mean, look, with Snyder, you always got to factor in about 25 minutes of slow-mo. And I mean, we got it this time round. Mm-hmm. Boy, did we ever get that slow-mo. Mm-hmm. And I mean, look, pacing wise, this is why I was saying, if you'd released this as the 4 individual episodes, as they said they were going to in the first place, it makes more sense that you've got that length there, because then you're working to a kind of traditional format of between 40 minutes and an hour for a sort of, event television episode. Things like Game of Thrones, mm-hmm. between 40 and 50, 60 minutes sometimes. And in that context, it works because you can then spend as long as you want and you can focus on the story beats you want to focus on in episode 1, episode 2. But releasing it as one film and then saying, this is my original vision. Your original vision is far too bloated then. And there's a reason that studios cut movies down, because in some cases, directors don't know best. And we've talked about this before when it came to Tarantino.
Yeah.
Sometimes directors do need someone just saying, what, Quentin, Zack, maybe not that. Yeah. Maybe not that. And, I'm all for the fact that he's been able to make the film he wants to make. And I think that's good. Mm-hmm. Does it come at a cost in terms of the quality of the film? Absolutely it does. But I'll let you guys wax lyrical about how it should be 10 hours long, but it felt 10 hours long. So,
Nick, same question.
I think if I was to think of it in terms of, did I feel it felt long? I didn't feel that it did feel 4 hours when I watched it. Mm-hmm. I felt The Irishman was a hell of a lot longer. That felt like days when I watched The Irishman.
Give me 20 Irishmans before I watch this again.
I think, just the length. I was able to sit through and watch all of it. And I thought it was good that you had the parts coming up. So if you did want to sort of have a break, you could go for a break and switch back on.
Can I just say that the part names are ridiculously named? One of them is called Don't Count on It, Batman.
I totally agree. It's like they've taken like one really, really random piece of dialogue out of this section and just went, that will do.
I thought it was going to be the first word of every section that came on.
Yeah.
I'm sure it happened in a few of them. It was the exact first word that happened when it came on. But yeah, the length, as a fan, I probably just wanted to see more stuff that I hadn't seen. So yeah, I think that's what sort of excited me more, is that, if there's more footage and I want to see it. I'm a big, obviously, DC fan, so more of that, then good for me. But there is a lot of stuff that you pointed out that is a bit bloated and could be trimmed down. But yeah, the length didn't bother me when I watched it.
I think where I stand on this is 4 hours. 4 hours is probably too long for any movie in reality, for a single movie. And I think the main thing that stood out for me more than anything is that, to tag on to what Alex said, is that you probably get a good, genuinely, you probably get a good 15, 20 minutes of super slow-mo in this movie, genuinely. And that's Snyder's MO. Obviously, you don't get a Snyder movie without super slow-mo. But you got it in abundance in this. And I genuinely think that made the runtime a hell of a lot longer than it probably needed to be. There were things in there that when I was watching it at times when, like, looking around, like, what is this? Like, especially and I suppose you two have just mentioned it, the Icelandic choir. But I don't know. I'm willing to just go along with that, but I don't know why. But overall, did I feel like it felt 4 hours? No. But again, I feel like I'm very, very invested in the characters. Then you kind of, when you kind of want to just see more of a specific character, and you're getting more of a specific character, and we'll get into characters later, you kind of dismiss how long it is that you've kind of got into it. And I think at one point when I was watching, it was like 2.5 hours in, I was like, I've still got an hour and a half left, and I know kind of like what story points are coming along, so I'll be interested to see how that all ties in with the length of time that we've got left. But pacing wise, I felt like it did kind of flow better. And I suppose that a lot of my viewpoints, that when I think back on it and when I was watching it, I was thinking in comparison to the original. So when I think of pacing and when I think of, is this flowing better, or does this make more sense, I'm always going to say in comparison to the original, because that is the whole reason that this movie's come out, is because the original sucked. And the world knows it sucked, and this is why that we've got this.
Yeah.
So
one thing I'd just say, one thing I'd just say off the back of what you were just saying there is, because I don't think I said it when I talked, was I completely agree that the pacing of this makes the film make more sense.
Mm-hmm.
And the length of this makes it make more sense. But on the flip side, if it hadn't, Snyder needs to just give up directing. Because if I give you 4 hours to make a film and it doesn't make sense, then
this was I think this is a point I said to someone, I can't remember who I said it to, but if you give any director 4 hours and they don't make a character-driven, cohesive narrative, then they shouldn't be working. They shouldn't be in that job. So yes, I'm glad that it does make sense in terms of story, and it feels more like a cohesive vision. Because like I said, I'm comparing it to the original. I'm just really, really disappointed with the lack of that in the original. So overall, probably too long. I think more than probably too long. You could have easily gotten away with 3 hours. Like, it's not uncommon to see a 3 hour movie these days. It's very, very uncommon to see a 4 hour movie. So 3 hours, I don't think the length of it would have actually even been a talking point. It would have just been, okay, it's just another 3 hour movie. We got Endgame that was 3 hours, and okay. So yeah, I think length, probably too long. Pacing, I thought the pacing was better than the original. But still some moments in there which kind of raise an eyebrow and kind of make you look around and question what the hell is going on. So it kind of leads into the next category that we want to talk about, was the overall story. So we know that the plot of the movie was the same. The plot of the movie is the same. We get from the end of BVS, Superman dies, leaves Earth vulnerable for big bads to come down and try and take it over, mainly being in the original, mainly being Steppenwolf on behalf of Darkseid, but in this one, a hell of a lot more of Steppenwolf, but also a hell of a lot more of Darkseid. So with that additional, I would say additional narrative, but extended narrative, do you think the story felt better because of it? Andy?
Why is it always me first? How did this happen?
Okay.
We're going clockwise.
Alex.
I'll jump in. That's fine. Yeah. Okay. So the question being, is the story better? The story makes more sense now, and getting to certain plot points requires less of a leap of logic than it did in the 2017 one, right? That being said, you're right. It's still the same plot, and essentially it's 3 boxes that I don't particularly care about, but I understand I'm supposed to, so that's fine. The additions to the plot of there's also this anti-life thing. I mean, look, when they said those words, I just went, okay, well, I guess this is just a thing in this universe then. Cool, whatever. And then Andy said to me, I have to ask you, as a non-DC reader, do you understand what that means? And I said, it's a thing they have to do to stop something. Who knows? But, it's another MacGuffin, and that's fine. But you've already got 3 MacGuffins in this film that form one MacGuffin. Surely you want more than... the more MacGuffins there are, the better, right? And this film's got MacGuffins aplenty.
We need MacGuffins. MacGuffins galore.
So, from this perspective of, okay, does the stuff that was retained from 2017 to now, does that make more sense? Yes. But, like Andy said, if you've got an extra 2 hours to flesh out your story, then you better be making more sense with it. And it did feel like, okay, I can understand, how these characters come into contact with these things now, or how these characters get to the points they're in. But again, a lot of it kind of still felt like, well, that's maybe due to the fact that there's scenes where this is just padding. And even without that, I can still piece it together. Mm-hmm. Do I care? No. That's the problem. The plot is still very much... And look, I'm coming from it from a perspective of I'm not a huge DC fan, but I'm not a huge Marvel fan either. And, Andy's seen enough of these superhero movies with me to know that, and he can tell you that I'm not someone who's particularly invested in either of these worlds, to the point where all of these team-up movies, I always feel are just a bit too much stuff going on at once.
Yeah.
I don't know whether there's probably a section coming up later where I can discuss this in a bit more detail, because
okay.
Yeah, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, because there's reasons why I think the plot, I think the plot works as well as it did in the first one. It's just this time I understand how they got to the places.
Okay.
I think that's what it boils down to, the changes for me.
Okay. Andy. Same question.
Agree, in essence. The story, if you're asking the question, is the story better? Technically, yes, because there is more of it. Mm-hmm. But it also strips away some of the fabric of what I think made Justice League 2017 bearable. I know why it is that it's happened, and I can go into that now if you want me to. Which is basically, so my worry about this before it even started was always going to be, with Snyder doing his cut, he gets to put in everything that he wants, but also gets to remove everything that he deems not liked by the audience, under the guise of, that was not in my cut.
Okay.
So all the jokes and stuff are cut out, and any moment that he goes, oh, the audience didn't like this, I can remove.
Okay.
And by doing that, you remove all fun and all humor from your film.
Okay.
You also remove any kind of stakes, and you remove any kind of variation in character. So I spoke to Alex about this afterwards. There's a moment where Superman comes back to life.
What?
And everyone is there. And in the original cut, Aquaman's heart starts beating really fast. And all the way up until that point, he's like, this isn't right, man. This isn't right. We're bringing him back from dead. That's not Superman. This isn't right. He's not normal. In this, everyone just stands there and they're like, Superman's back. And then Cyborg's arm goes off. In the other cut, the original cut, there's a scene where Aquaman turns around and he says, how can we trust Cyborg? How do we know he's not just part of the machines? How do we know that if he hooks into there, then he doesn't get taken over by the machinery or yada yada yada. In this cut, Aquaman goes, "Oh, that guy's dad's just died. Isn't that we probably shouldn't be putting him in this situation?" But there's no concern about what Cyborg is and how that could potentially be a negative aspect to the team. And you see what I mean?
I think there is one. Sorry to interrupt. I think there is one point where he outright kind of calls him out on it. But I see what you mean.
The point I'm getting at is the entire film becomes grey. It becomes a level of all the characters are exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
They all have the same morals. They all have the same feelings towards everything. So while, yes, the story is better because there is more and therefore the plot points are clearer, it's actually worse because it's a film that doesn't have any kind of excitement.
Wow. Okay, cool.
Okay. I was going to touch on a few of the things that Andy touched on there, but I was going to touch on them later when it comes to character stuff.
Okay.
I didn't know if there was a section for that, but what I would
Here isn't
say,
good, and I am jumping it.
Look. What I would say is that I'm currently monitoring the comments on the chat here, and we're putting off a lot of people here, Andy. So
yeah, you guys need to hit us with some positivity.
Nick and Anne, please hit us with some positivity and try and convince Fragdicted to be watching this immediately after this.
Nick, your turn.
I think what you guys are saying is right in terms of, the story is better. I think it's taste really. What do you prefer if you like the sort of humorous aspects or things that will make sense, like you mentioned there, Andy, with the heartbeat of Aquaman. But yeah, for me personally, I did like all this sort of extended stuff because it does make sense to where they're going and what it led to. I think the original was just very fast cuts and you feel like there's something missing here and it doesn't build upon it. So yeah, I was all in with this one and I really liked it. There was a lot of moments in there where I was like, yeah, why what's the point of that? So I've had to sort of try and think why that's in there. So I've not even looked. So I'm going to discuss with you guys what you guys think on some of the things. But yeah, compared to the original, the story is miles better for me.
Okay, cool. So in terms of overall story for me, when people say to me, like, what's the difference between this? Because that's the first question that people ask when you say, have you seen it? And people don't really know about it. Like, what's the difference? And you kind of go, well, the plot's the same. The plot's the same all out. The main difference is that I feel like this is more of a story. It allows it to tell a story because of the extended time. And what I think I liked more about this story is that it wasn't just a one-sided thing like it is very much in the original Justice League, is that you got it because of and again, it's running back to the extended runtime, because there is an extended runtime, you get more of a story, you get more character development, you get the chance to actually explore characters that you wouldn't even think about exploring in the original cut, mainly being Steppenwolf. Steppenwolf has got his own kind of story arc in this, as opposed to just being there in the last one because he is a bad man or thing or Dobby lookalike. But this one, he's got his own story arc, and you kind of almost... It's almost kind of for me. I understand how you're saying that, like he's taken some characterization away from certain characters that he deems not worthy. But for me, when I look at it the other side, he's given more characterization to those that literally had none, and it makes Steppenwolf for me more of I wouldn't say relatable. It's not relatable because he can't be relatable, but you kind of, you understand reasoning behind why he's doing what he's doing rather than just doing it because that's what villains do. And I really liked that in this version of it, that you get to see like kind of more villainous motivation, and it makes it, like I said, just more of a story. So do I think the story telling is better? Yes. Is the story the same overall? Yes. But because of an extended runtime, for me, it feels like a story rather than something that quite clearly was butchered and then some things inserted here and then just mashed together. Because that was my main gripe. I had a lot of gripes about the original, but one of my main gripes was that it didn't feel like it made sense at all as a story. It just didn't. There was a lot of stuff that just happened because that's just one way to get from A to B. Mainly being the way that they got the third mother box. I don't know if you can remember in the original, the third mother box is they all get distracted by Superman and them all fighting, and then all of a sudden they forget about the mother box over there, and boom, it's gone. It's just lazy. It's lazy storytelling because of the way it's been hacked and chopped and the story's been changed. Whereas this time you get to go, actually, this is what the story is, and this is how you get to from A to B. You have to go around all these kind of zigs and zags, and it's more of a story rather than just, let's just get that gone because we need to get somewhere else quicker.
I suppose, there are good moments in this and like better storytelling moments. And I think it would be amiss for me to just basically slate it all and be like, everything is a terrible decision. There are, like, I hate the fact that mother box is just abandoned in the first one. In this one, I like the fact that they heat it so that it's easier to find, and that's a reason why you can find exactly where they are in the world of this mother box. Like, there are some creative decisions that I go, okay, yes, that's okay. So I just want to be not everything is terrible.
We did add you two to this review for a little bit of a difference of opinion, because we know that if it was just me and Nick, this would just be a glowing review, and there would be some, we didn't like this bit, but forget about that. We needed to level us out a bit.
5-star Trustpilot review.
We would know that you would see it from a different perspective, so that's why we want. So don't feel like you need to pad out your thoughts, because you haven't so far, and I don't want you to for the rest of it. That's what me and Nick are for. But yeah, overall for me, story was better because there was more of a story, if that makes sense. Okay. So let's go into, I think because there are a lot of characters and we want to go over them, kind of all of them, we'll start going into each character first. So do we have any preference on which character you would like to talk about first? No,
I'll leave it up to you.
Choice.
Okay. Let's probably talk about one of the easiest ones first. Then let's talk about Batman. Let's talk about Batman in this one, and I want to ask you more in comparison to what he was in the original. Do you think that this version of this portrayal of Batman is any different? And if so, what and why?
No. Simple answer for me. No, I feel like he is more of the same. And look, I know we're supposed to believe that he suddenly cares about humanity and that he's seen the best of humanity in Superman in his death. But the problem is, you're asking me in a completely separate film to believe that the things that didn't exist in the previous film in Batman vs Superman actually happened. And I never got the feeling that he did have this emotional arc in that story of losing faith in humanity and then regaining faith in humanity. And I think that speaks to a lot of what gets put into this film, is that I think there is this false portrayal of sort of hope and light that just doesn't exist. Certainly not with that performance. I think, Affleck is still phoning it in. I mean, it's 2017 footage. So all of that stuff, of course it's phoned in, because it's the same footage that they shot in 2017, and he's not going to change his performance midway through it. Mm-hmm. So you get more of that same performance, which I thought was awful in the first one, and is still bad here. It's just now there's even more of it. Okay. So from my perspective, I'm getting a character I, A, never believed in, B, never enjoyed watching, and C, now have it for 2 extra hours.
Okay.
A good chunk of which is, additional scenes between him and Alfred. And I don't know if Jeremy Irons' agent just played a blinder and said, you better put all of his scenes back in. But, you know, if I was Jeremy Irons, I'd have just been like, well, I'll take the paycheck and I'll bugger off. I don't care about being put in more scenes again. You know, I've got my money either way.
Okay.
Yeah, so for me, Batman,
It's the
same as it was. I never felt like there was any kind of difference.
Okay, cool. Andy?
Yeah, I find Batman a confused character. I think you're absolutely right when you say he's throwing it in, but he is confused in the sense of they made him quippy in the original. And they went, oh, Batman's going to have jokes. And in this one, they went, Batman's going to have jokes sometimes. Not always, but sometimes he will have jokes. And it's kind of like, okay, but why? If you're going to do it once or twice, or you're going to do it all the time, because now you've got a character that doesn't really make sense because he's either all on or all off. I think you can tell that there are definitely some reshoots in there from Affleck. Like I think he physically ages at times.
Yeah, he's definitely more trim than he was back then. So you can see in his facial structure that he looks more slender in the suit than he did back in 2017. Yeah.
I liked Jeremy Irons. I think he's having a good time.
He's a great. I think he's a great Alfred. To be honest,
Best thing about the film.
I think he's a great Alfred.
But the problem is, like, I think Batman vs Superman. There's like one scene in it where you're like, oh, this is good Batman. Like, and I don't think we ever got back to there ever again in this. I don't think it reaches that. You know,
I
understand
what that scene was.
It's the scene in the warehouse, like, and even though it still has Batman using a gun, if I remember rightly, which, you know, Batman doesn't use a gun, Batman doesn't kill, Batman doesn't say
the Gotham Warehouse Massacre.
Yeah. You know, when he murders everyone.
Yeah, I remember that moment. Yeah, sure.
You know, when that character that's definitely not Batman is in that Batman outfit. And I get that this is what
sometimes.
I guess this is what Snyder's Batman is, and this is what we have to accept. Like, you know, these are Elseworld characters because they aren't the characters. But yeah, it's fine. Like, I don't think he's ever got anywhere near this kind of. So people claim that he's like the best Batman ever, and I don't see it. I don't see it at all. I don't understand where that comes from. Give me Gotham Kid over this Batman.
Sacrilege.
I watched one season of Gotham.
Nick, same question.
So Batman, I felt was a bit of a weak point for me, even though that I do like Batfleck quite a lot. With the runtime being as big as it was, I was expecting more Batman, and I think I felt I wanted a warehouse scene to be a bit dark. I felt like it was very Bruce Wayne heavy, a minimal Batman for me. And because obviously I've looked into the Snyder Cut for a while, there was a few scenes that were not even in it, which I was expecting to be in it. Some like Batman scenes, so that disappointed me a bit. But yeah, from a Batman point of view, I felt it was very weak. There wasn't really a standout scene with Batman as the character. Majority of it was just Bruce Wayne talking shit. So from a Batman point of view, I was a bit disappointed.
Yeah, okay, so that's a quick analysis. That's Bruce Wayne talking shit, innit?
I have one standout Batman scene. Right at the end, when everyone stood on the tower, Batman is trying his hardest to crawl on top of it, and Superman lifts him up. And I'm like, why didn't anyone just fly him up there? Like, why did him struggle his way up
there for ages, waiting for this old man to climb up this tower?
That's my favorite Batman moment in the entire film.
Batman for me, I think I'm just basically echoing what a lot of you have kind of said, is that it was very much, and this is why I said we'll go through Batman first, because you pretty much get what you get with him. There are some things that were in the original that aren't in this, that don't really make much of a difference in terms of Batman's characterization. Like you said, Andy, he's less quippy in this, but only to a certain degree. But yeah, and it doesn't. I suppose the issue that I've always had with Batman being in Justice League is that he feels very inadequate. in comparison to his counterparts, which is unfortunate because I am a huge Batman fan, and it's very disheartening to see your favorite superhero become the worst superhero in comparison to everyone else. Because like he's getting the shit kicked out of him left, right, and center, and he's just got this grappling hook that he uses every now and again to kick someone, and he's got these kind of absorbent arm things. But yeah, I think in terms of Batman, his input into this one is very much that of a recruiter. And that's pretty much it. His abilities in terms of fighting off evil is just as much in this one as it was in the last one, i.e. very, very minimal. But I don't necessarily, like, whilst he is kind of like you could argue he's the glue that puts them together. He may not hold them together, but he definitely puts them together. That's pretty much his role in this movie. And in terms of Justice League, he's not a formidable enough kind of presence in terms of baddie fighting to be able to kind of even make much of a comparison to anyone else. So he's just there. He fulfills his role, but that his role is of pretty much nondescript to me. It's just very much the same. I will say there is a couple of moments with Batman or Bruce Wayne where product placement is just beautiful. The Gillette razor, for one. Oh God, you get some slow-mo on that and close up on that Gillette razor, and his car as well. When you know that the line where he says "I'm rich," and then you get like a 30-second promo for Mercedes-Benz. Yeah, so Batman is sponsored by everyone in this movie.
Just need Wayne to come in like that.
Okay, so Batman. Let's go on to another easy one. Let's go on to Wonder Woman. Same question, different character. Alex.
Again, same as last time, except this time more of it and worse. Her action scene at the beginning, I know that was extended, and you see more of the fighting there, and some of the ropiest CGI I have ever seen. I mean, the problem is, okay, so by this point at the 2017 film, we'd had the solo film for Wonder Woman, right? So she is at that point, one of three characters who are really well established within this group. And then we obviously had Wonder Woman 84, which undid a lot of the good work of Wonder Woman, the first one. And then here, you've taken it back to, okay, so she's as miserable as she was in the previous one because the second one hadn't come out yet. So obviously it was written by Snyder that she had gone into hiding for 100 years or whatever and never reemerged. And yet 1984 now says, well, okay, that isn't the case. And actually she saved the world in 1984 because she loved the world so much, because Steve Trevor taught her how to love the world again. So this doesn't make any sense now. And if you're releasing a film that comes out after Wonder Woman 1984, and I don't care about the fact that this was supposed to come out in 2017, it's coming out in 2021. You, as a filmmaker, need to make sure that you are editing this to reflect that that is the same character. Mm-hmm. Because what you've done is you've said to me, these characters are played by the same actors as they are in their independent solo films, but they are not those characters. Mm-hmm. Aquaman isn't that. Wonder Woman definitely isn't that either. So am I supposed to believe in these characters? Because in which case, Wonder Woman is a completely different person, just murders everyone, which is, I think, weird for saying sort of how she sort of tried to have some kind of moral code, and that her faith in the goodness of humanity was the thing that really drove her. Or how are you going to give someone a second chance when you snap their neck? And it's, everyone will say, oh, well, this is Snyder's vision of the characters. Well, then in that case, recast the characters. Because you can't have her being played by the same actor and then going, it's nothing to do with the other characters.
I think just to point out on that Snyder did come out and say that this version would be like, I think, as you pointed out, this version would be his version, regardless of what has preceded it, what it would have been, which is the reason why the ending. We'll get to that, but which is the reason why it is the way that it is, because he's gone in with a preconceived notion of this is what it would have been, and I don't care about anything else because this is what I wanted to do, and to hell with the rest of it.
He's really good at playing with others. But look, it's a problem that I think does exist in the grander scheme of things, and I'm sure we'll get onto that in a bit. But yeah, I mean, Wonder Woman in this just feels like a completely different character. I mean, she feels like the same character from Batman versus Superman as well, though, because she was dull and uninteresting in that, and now is also dull and uninteresting in here. But she also feels like exactly the same character as Batman.
Yeah.
And also as Superman and as Aquaman.
Yeah.
Cool. I got to the point where I just went, I'm just going to pretend they're all the same character because all of the lines could be coming out of one person's mouth. Anyway, Andy, your turn.
I didn't know if you wanted to do as like a negative, positive.
No, we'll keep going. We'll keep going.
Oh, we'll do the pile-on method, shall we?
Much the same, to be honest. Like, I do think you're absolutely right, where all voices become the same. A couple of things that I loved about Wonder Woman. One, she's on the most CGI set I've ever seen in my life when she's in the Greek tomb that has the Resident Evil door where she puts the arrow into it and it opens up. Fakest set I've ever seen, and I love it. Secondly, when she's doing the voiceover for Darkseid's invasion, couldn't be less interested. It's incredible. Like, I don't think you can say that in any way that's more boring.
Reading it off a post-it note in front of her
it's
for the first time seeing it.
It's so funny because it's true.
And it's then Darkseid arrived and destroyed everyone for a bit.
I wouldn't be surprised if she was doing like the Brando method of the lines were on the back of Ben Affleck and she was just reading it. Yeah, you hit on some really good points about, she's basically a murderer, like them all. She has these moments where it's like, oh, she's this strong Amazonian woman. And we know that because the soundtrack tells us that she's a strong Amazonian woman because it squeals at us every time.
Some Enya pops in.
And it will tell us that every single time she comes on screen. But yeah, what can you say about her though? Like, it becomes a thing of, is she the heart of the team? Because she's pretty heartless.
Okay. Nick?
I think after watching Wonder Woman 84, I think I liked seeing this type of Wonder Woman just because I absolutely hated 84. And I felt like she just cried the whole way through the film. So yeah, seeing her just murder people and do that type of stuff, that I enjoyed that. Regardless of it being a character trait or if it's comic book accurate, that's all in my book. I'm happy with all that. Just keep doing it.
You can do, I can do better.
And, yeah, just the ending as well. It felt like what I wanted to see in terms of what she did. With 84, though, I think the difference in tone is exactly what they did with the original Justice League. That was the way they were going to go with the sort of Marvel-ish type of route. And Wonder Woman 84 was still part of that group of people who were making them films. So I think it could have carried on with that same tone as we've got in this film and BVS to Wonder Woman 84. But I think it was the people behind the scenes that have sort of changed that narrative with 84. So it'd be interesting to see what Wonder Woman 3 will be like, whether they keep the tone of 84 or not.
Can I just ask a real quick question, Nick, on something you just said?
Yeah.
Where does this film leave Wonder Woman? Like you said, where you like it at the ending. I watched this film yesterday and I cannot remember how her story ends.
Oh, no, I mean what she did with the villain. That's what I meant.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. I
Not
thought,
where
like,
she
I
goes
missed something
off.
in the epilogue.
Yeah,
Or something.
he was talking about the murdery side of it.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah, chopping off
Yeah.
his head.
Yeah. Okay.
It's quite
Sorry.
bloody.
the beheading. Yes.
Look,
Yeah.
I'm okay with Steppenwolf being beheaded. Don't get me wrong. Alien conquerors.
But
You
I
can kill as
think
many of
just
them as you want.
I think with Gal Gadot anyway, we know that we're not going to get any strong performances from her in terms of acting or what have you. Obviously, she's beautiful, and I feel that I like Snyder's sort of version of Wonder Woman in terms of that she needs to be aggressive, the Amazonian type of woman, rather than what I saw in '84. But I liked what I saw. But I agree with what you're saying in terms of the acting, the bad CGI. That is all still there. But I did like the more brutality from Wonder Woman.
Are you upset that she doesn't have the severed heads on her belt like she did in Snyder's original mock-up?
Obviously.
Oh yeah. Hanging them up,
Yeah.
slap them on the back.
Just carrying them in a sack.
Wonder Woman for me was again, I felt she was pretty much the same as what she was kind of like in the original take of this. There's not really much difference to it other than, like Alex said, you do get more of her. The thing that I found interesting with Wonder Woman in this is that Steppenwolf kind of goes for her a little bit more. He tries to get a rise out of her. I'm still unsure as to why. Maybe it's just because he just likes to be a dick and he was just trying to get her, catch her off guard or something like that. But I did find one of the things really quite interesting about, how you go and say she's going in and she's murdering everything. I think I actually laughed out loud at this point. It's after she's gone in and she's literally thrown all these men to their grisly, broken bodied doom. And then she literally obliterates a man in front of probably 40 children. And then a child turns around and says, "Can I be like you?" And she says, "You can be whatever you want to be, including a murderous psychopath." I just found that really quite funny. That she stands for all things like hope and things like that. And she literally just blows up a man in front of children. I thought that was quite funny.
And
but I think I do. Sorry.
And that moment where she turns around and says to, like, that moment afterwards, like, you see her do all that. And then there's a moment with that child where it's like, "Can I be like you?" And she's like, "You can be anything you want to be." It's like, which Wonder Woman are you giving us then?
Yeah.
Now? Like, what are you deciding to do?
Yeah.
Like, I expect her to wink like she did in '84.
I will be honest, I've still not seen '84 because I have no interest in seeing it, because I never had any interest in seeing it. From what I saw from the trailers and from what people have told me, I've got zero interest in it, and it's probably a good move not watching it. So the Wonder Woman that I have seen is the only Wonder Woman that I know, which is the kind of very serious, very aggressive, very murderous kind of Wonder Woman. And do I like it? Yeah, I mean, I like Wonder Woman. I like watching Gal Gadot beat the shit and kill people. Why not? So for me, I've got nothing to compare it to. I know that exists, but I'm happy to forget it, if I'm being honest, because I know that I've not seen it. So I suppose I'm coming in with a bit of a jaded view on it because I don't have the thing to compare it against, which you guys have. But
go watch the bloopers they got released yesterday for Wonder Woman '84. Hell of a lot better than the film.
Well, that speaks volumes itself. But yeah, I think the thing I found more interesting in this one was the attention that Steppenwolf gave Wonder Woman and the rise that he was trying to get out of her. And I felt like it gave her a little bit more to do in terms of why it almost kind of had to be her that killed him rather than it could have been anyone that killed him. Because at that point, like, Superman could have literally come in as he was doing and just lay in the smackdown on him, like just beasting him. But because of the way that he went for her, and I think that it was obviously it was purposefully done, but it gave her a little bit more to do. In terms of the demise of Steppenwolf, which I quite liked. It gave her something else to do rather than just do what she did before. It gives her something. It gives us something extra to kind of go, "Oh yeah, I want her to really chop that fucking head off." But yeah, other than that, it's pretty much the same for me.
Yeah, and I suppose like if I really wanted to read into things and be like that, you could say, oh, Steppenwolf actually is a tactician because he realizes that once your Kryptonians have gone, your Amazonian is definitely your next biggest threat. So goad her, make stupid decisions, and you can take her out, and you can go, okay, does that add Steppenwolf's character? Maybe.
Okay,
I'll give you a maybe.
We'll jump into with someone that we've mentioned. A couple of people have mentioned him now, and I think I get what you guys are going to be talking about with this one. We'll go with Dude Bro.
My man.
The quick one for me.
Less Dude Bro for me, but let's see what you think. I think I know what you're going to say, but Alex, go with Aquaman.
This film is astonishing to me because it did something that I never expected this film to do, which is make me nostalgic for Aquaman's solo movie. And that is a movie that I think is an absolute mess. However, it's nowhere near the mess this is. So, the thing that I really liked about it, in retrospect, was that it had any degree of personality. And that goes for the lead character as well, who in this, they've dialed back the dude broiness from the 2017 version. And it's actually to the character's detriment, weirdly, because it makes him now just another mouthpiece for the Wonder Woman or the Batman aspect of it, because it all just blends into the same thing. At least before, when he was being, dude bro and dressed like a bat, I dig it, that kind of thing. I actually wish that was still in here, because guess what? It was some kind of personality you were giving this character, who now is just placeholder. And weirdly, you've given him extra scenes that don't add anything to him, really. And, I mean, you've got this scene with, what's his name, Velcro? Willem Dafoe's character, right? And that scene for me was just one of those ones where I was going, you can get rid of this padding, or you can get rid of a lot of this scene. You can keep some aspect of it. But what you've managed to do is you've managed to take a character who, in the initial film, I thought, hey, this is maybe too much of a dude bro thing. But actually, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. And with regards to that, it just felt like I was watching a diluted version of that same character, to the point where I'm just like, but now you're no different to anyone else. So there needs to be, and look, Nick, I'm not saying that I want Marvel quips in every movie, because I don't want that. And that's some of the stuff that I really don't like about the Marvel stuff, is the quippiness of it. However, you need to have some light and shade. You can't just have 1 degree of shade and then call that a film. Not to me, anyway. And I appreciate everyone's got their own tastes. And hey, look, I'm an idiot for thinking this, clearly. But with Aquaman, I hated that film when it came out. I am now in a position where I'm thinking I'm going to have to rewatch Aquaman and reassess it, because I think I was unduly harsh on it. Because at least that had the brass balls to be a film that has a personality. And that's largely to do with the fact that this character is like a weird sort of surfer dude who makes jokes and also takes things way too seriously sometimes. Maybe I like that now from him. I didn't in the 2017 version, but my God, did I miss it here. Andy, go ahead.
You basically covered most of it. Like, I want my dude bro Aquaman. Like, give me that back. Like, I've seen how good things can get. Like, the fact that I don't have a personality to him anymore. He has no drive in this movie. He's like, the thing he was used for in the original cut was basically to be the voice of dissent and to be the voice of, oh, maybe this isn't the right idea, or maybe, you're not as smart as you think you are. He was almost a sultry character, but being like, not everything we're doing is A-okay. And now it's just I'll be there and I'll come along with you guys because we all think the same thing and we all have this hive mind. I think it's nice that he got involved in a couple of more fights. Like, he is a little bit more involved in that stuff. I'm glad he still said "my man," and I'm glad he still surfed a parademon through a building. Those are his two qualities that had to remain, and they didn't take it from me. I like the fact that they decided to change his dive into the ocean from this kind of really cool kind of, oh, look, Aquaman drinks while Icky Thump plays, to here's some Leonard Cohen as he solemnly drinks through his whiskey and takes off his top. You know, I think a lot of the stylistic choices around Aquaman are bad in this. And, you know, they probably weren't great before.
Did it annoy anyone that he chucked his bottle in the water?
Probably. But he did it in the 2017 one as well. Like, but we all know Orm can just eject all trash from the ocean anyway. Like, he proved that in Aquaman. Like, why doesn't he do that? That's another film. But you know, having seen Atlantis in James Wan's version and seeing kind of how that works, and how, you know, they just talk normally to each other when they're there, and then seeing this version of him when it's just like, I don't understand what you're trying to do with him now, because he's got no personality. Like, I think, yeah, Alex had probably covered all of it. Like, where is his personality? Because it ain't here anymore.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Nick?
I felt like Aquaman wasn't needed in the film. There's literally, bar the sort of development under the water, which was not enough at all. I think he's just a filler. There's nothing memorable about Aquaman in this film, and I think as much as I hate the stuff in the original, some of that stuff can be memorable because of how stupid it is. So like the selfies in the bar and stuff like that, even though it's so bad, it can be memorable. Whereas I think in this, he's not memorable at all. And quite similar to Batman, I can't think of a standout scene of where I'm like, yeah, that was actually quite good. So yeah, for me, Aquaman was one of the really weakest characters for me in this.
Aquaman. Yeah,
I feel we've worn Nick down. Like, next turn, can I suggest that you guys start?
Yeah, you.
I have got good. No, I have got lots of good things, but
Aquaman is he's one of those, isn't he? That I think he is the. Now that you've seen this, he is the proof that Joss Whedon isn't all that bad.
He's still a baddie.
He is still.
Joss Whedon is still a sack of shit, but he's not all that bad when it comes to differences and choices. There are certain things that suit certain characters, and we know. I mean, me and Andy, we have raved about when we went to go see Aquaman. We had a great time. It was so much fun. It was balls to the wall, but that's what we loved about it. It went in a direction and it said, I don't care what anyone else says. I'm just going in this direction. And it played off the Aquaman that we got in the original Justice League. And that's what made it a little bit cohesive to, progression of a character. This one, Nick's disappeared. I think he's gone for a week.
You really upset him.
Yeah, he's gone now. That's it. You've done it. This version of Aquaman, I'm just echoing what everyone else says. He feels very much less of an identity now. He feels very much part of a group that's just willing to just go along and say what everyone else is saying, do what everyone else is doing because that's what they're doing. He provides a little bit more in terms of strength because he is a stronger character in terms of fighting because he has that superhuman strength. But other than that, there's nothing else there's nothing else there that really kind of elevates him from the crowd more than anything. Which is sad really, because he could be a very fun character to play around with. And like we said, in the original version, he has these kind of like quippy and I wouldn't, and I think you said it, Alex, I would never think that I would go, oh my God, dude, bro, Aquaman is something that I want back. Because he has his own identity.
Yeah.
In this one, he doesn't. But yeah, so this is proof that this isn't as much as a lot of people are saying, a lot of your huge fans are saying this is a perfect rendition, this is how it should have been. There's very, very easy ways of saying no. That there are errors in here that even big fans can turn around and say, no, you need to admit when you got things wrong, and when the original cut was better than this, and Aquaman is absolutely one of those inclusions. So Aquaman,
I think we can all agree with the comments as well. Aquaman's an all-time classic hunk.
Absolute hunk.
The damn sexy beast.
Yeah. Hey.
And no one is denying that Aquaman is a hunk.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that.
Look at him.
Look at that. Look at him. Look at
If
that.
anything,
look at
I'm at the armor.
Look at that shine.
Cool. Okay, next one. Okay, so we're getting into, I feel like we're going to get into more kind of let's go into Superman next. Because
boys start, please.
This is Andy's jam. Andy's jam is Superman. You're a big fan of Superman, we know that. Alex, talk to me about Superman in this.
Please start with you and Nick, because I feel that like by the time we get round to you, like we have depressed you.
Yeah, because it may well be that you end up giving us some positives that we haven't thought about yet. I mean, I feel like I've thought about this film way too much. But...
Nick, talk to me about Superman.
So it was good that he didn't have the CGI mustache, so he looked normal in the movie. That was a big positive.
Did he fight a hippo in this one?
The what?
Is it a hippo?
There's no
before a
podcast in
hippo.
this one.
Yeah. There's no podcast, which is a video.
Yeah, exactly.
It's called a video cast, guys. Oh, it's called a YouTube.
The suit looked nice. I really liked the black suit. I felt like I wanted more Superman. I think I did like the cornfield bit. I don't know if it reminded me of one of the old Superman films. It looked like he was wearing the sort of same clothes where he's with his mum. And that reminded me of one of the old films. But yeah, I think I craved a bit more of Superman. And I felt like there were a few pointless scenes. One in particular was, why did he arrive to speak to Alfred when he could have just gone to where they were? It felt just a pointless scene of him just going. There was no chatter. It was just like, oh, he said you'll come.
Gotta get that runtime up, Nicky.
Yeah. It felt pointless for me, but I really liked it. It felt better than the original. Even though the opening line of him coming into the final battle was still cheesy, it was better than the other one. I didn't like the what does he say? Do you bleed in the original? Absolutely hated that. I'm glad they took that out. But yeah, it was. I liked it, but I wanted more.
Cool. Superman for me, he's definitely better than what we got from the original. I was a little bit annoyed about the fact that there was a big hoo-ha about black suit Superman. Big hoo-ha. Black suit Superman, we need the black suit Superman, this, that, and the other. And then you get black suit Superman, but you don't get told why we have black suit Superman. You just get black suit Superman. Now, fans of Superman and the Superman lore and Superman comics will know why you have black suit Superman, but your everyday average watcher won't know why you have black Superman. And this goes exactly. So this goes, I expected with a 4-hour runtime that you would get at least an explanation as to why you get this, rather than him just walking through his fancy walk-in wardrobe that presents clothes to him and he's gone, actually, I fancy a little black number today. There's no real explanation as to why that happens. So that annoyed me a little bit.
I thought it was because he had a hole in his red and blue suit.
But that's
Wait,
what I was
what's-
originally told, and I thought it was a joke. But apparently, that was an actual explanation. Is that the reason he's wearing a black suit now is because his other one had a hole ripped in it? Because I was like, no, that can't really be.
Tell me, Superman don't have spares.
Yeah, and the suit in the ship actually was complete, so he just walked past it and got it. But by the by, I think. The fight, the end. So Superman's kind of real main presence is your final battle. That's kind of like where he is. He's not really kind of included much else anywhere else other than the cornfield and the fight with the rest of them. You kind of really get to see Superman come into his own when he's fighting Steppenwolf, and he makes it look very easy. And it's kind of like, well, actually, this goes no further to try and kind of display that Superman is 99% of the Justice League. In terms of abilities and power. Without him, they struggle with him. He literally does it with his eyes closed. I mean, he breathes on Steppenwolf's axe and then literally flicks it and it breaks into pieces. So this goes no further into try and kind of make him feel like part of the team rather than just the driving force, like literally the entire strength of the Justice League. I did like the stylistic choices of him in the fight. Like I loved his entrance. So I really found his entrance into the original really cheesy, where he said something like, I'm not something, but I'm a big fan of justice. And it kind of like zoomed in on his CGI face, and then he kind of like gave Steppenwolf a right good uppercut. Whereas this one, I preferred his entrance into it, where he's stopping the axe, and it looked a bit more badass. But he just didn't really feel like he had a lot to do other than what he already did. They got out a lot of the worst things about Superman. They feel like Joss Whedon tried to include Superman a lot more to the film's detriment in the original. There's some certain pieces of Superman in the original that I don't understand why they were reshot, particularly in the cornfield when he was talking to Lois and Martha, his mother. Not Martha Wayne, just to confirm. But there was a reshot scene for that for God knows what reason. So it felt like that Whedon did try to make more of Superman in the original, whereas this one, I don't feel like it was that much. Like, I liked what I got. Don't get me wrong; it was okay. But yeah, it wasn't. To me, he wasn't one of the main parts of the movie. I think the next couple of characters we're going to get into are the main parts of it. He was just there just to beat the shit out of Steppenwolf, really, and then to serve a purpose later on in the movie, which we will get to. But I liked it. I liked it a lot better, a million times better than what we got before. So I'll say that. Andy.
Couldn't disagree with you more. I think Snyder fundamentally doesn't understand Superman. I genuinely believe he doesn't. Like, Superman, you can throw out the word hope as much as you want, but unless you show us some kind of indication of that, then why would I believe that? You know, it's telling that in this movie, when Superman is brought back from the dead, the first thing people do is shoot at him. Like, nobody goes, oh, Superman's back. They go, let's get our tanks in there and let's fire at him. Like, before he's done anything. Like, the black suit's there because obviously it's his healing suit, but it's telling that Snyder ends this film with a shot of Superman running to go and save people and still having the black suit underneath. Mm-hmm. Like, his idea that this bright, shining symbol of hope and savior for humanity is a guy who is as dour as his film. I've always been convinced Snyder wants to write an Injustice movie. He doesn't want to do Superman. He doesn't understand Superman. He doesn't understand, the kind of mechanics of what makes a Superman. And in Man of Steel, there are elements to that. The alien story of Superman crashing down to Earth is the story of immigration. It's a story of somebody being displaced from their planet and trying to live in a place where they don't belong and they feel like they have to hide who they truly are. And Superman is this guy who wants to help as many people as he can, and Snyder doesn't get that. Instead, what Snyder wants him to do is, what if Superman but bad? That's what he wants to do. And everything he does leads to that. And that's always where he's going to. He's always going to the point where, oh yeah, but what if Superman just, lasered Bruce Wayne for a bit? The reason that scene exists in the first place, them fighting Superman, is because they went, okay, what if we could just make Superman be bad for a little bit? Wouldn't that be cool? And then we can hint at it later on. Superman is a character that should inspire the best in people. It should be a character that makes people feel good and feel hopeful. And people go, oh, that's a boring character to put on screen. We had three Captain America films. It's basically the same thing. You can do that. You can have a character like that and you can make it work on film. Snyder can't. And he has proven it time and time again. And, and this is me saying, as I like Man of Steel, but that's because it's before Snyder was able to get too Snydery.
Okay.
This film proves to me that he doesn't understand. And it's proven by the fact, and I completely disagree with the fact that this is a better representation of Superman than the original.
Okay.
Because the original, when Superman arrives, he is almost brighter and he is a bright light in the absolute shit show that is the, I don't know, nuclear power plant or whatever they're in. He comes in and yes, some of his lines are cheesy, but it's okay to have a little bit of cheese, In this, it's the not impressed line, which I was kind of like, okay, fine. And then it's nothing. And it, like you said, it proves once again that he has 99% of the strength of the Justice League, because he could have gone and he could have taken them all out on his own.
Yeah, that bothers me about the whole representation of Superman in this movie, and both of the movies, to be fair, that he's totally overpowered. I mean, he is overpowered because he is Superman. He's supposed to be strong, but he like it almost feels pointless having anyone else. But yeah, I think just before you get onto your opinions, Alex, I think you're right in terms of the injustice. I think that Snyder, I don't think has been shy in basically saying that's exactly where he wants to go with this character. That's probably his favorite version of the character and the events, and it explains why a lot of the stuff that has happened over Batman versus Superman and this have transpired the way that they do, and we'll get onto that later on. But yes, I think you're absolutely right. I think his kind of passion is wanting to get that element of that story told, because that's what he likes, and his dark attitude towards a lot of basically humanity lends to that story, because it's a very dark and it's a very grim story, and that's one that he wants to tell, but he does have to jump through certain hoops in order to be able to get there. But like you said, certain characterizations may then go amiss on what people need to be before they get to said point.
Yeah,
I can appreciate your opinions on it. Absolutely,
it's the thing that I think Snyder has read like 4 comics, like total. One is Injustice and one is Dark Knight Returns, and basically he pulls all his information from that. But obviously he's not read Dark Knight Returns, because if you see how Superman is portrayed in that, even though I don't really like the comic,
I love the comic.
Yeah, as great as I can, great it is. Like Superman's representation, he's very bright, he's very colorful. I kind of think Snyder hates superheroes.
I think he doesn't like Superman.
He hates superheroes that are positive. And I genuinely think that he has trouble portraying him, and somehow he keeps getting the opportunity to do so. Like, give it to anybody else. Like, just give his parts to anybody else, and I would be happier, because I think it is a terrible portrayal. And the problem is, you're giving a terrible portrayal by somebody who I think aesthetically and performance-wise could be the best Superman we've ever seen. And that's the biggest damning part. Yeah. Alex, if you wanted to say.
Couldn't disagree with you more. I actually forgot that we'd had another, like a prequel to Man of Steel by this point, because we've all seen Brightburn, and Brightburn was just evil Superman, and this just feels like a continuation of that character rather than one that has any degree of duality to him. Like, this is the thing: is I'm not a comic book reader. I barely know what this black suit is all about. I know that it looks different and looks more like a Snyder suit, so of course he's going to choose it. But I didn't know it was a regenerative suit or whatever. So when he puts that on instead, I'm going, okay, so you're sapping what little color we had in the first film out and replacing it with yet another shade of black. Okay, fine, whatever. And I get that this is, they've announced that they're going to be releasing this Justice is Grey version of this film, which sounds just like the worst time. But for me, it's a problem of, number one, not impressed was one of my most eye-rolling lines in this movie, to the point where I was kind of like, he said that no Whedon lines had been left in, but that feels like a Whedon line. It definitely feels like a Whedon line. It doesn't feel like a Snyder line. I mean, it's as badly written as a Snyder line, but it's not. Like, it feels like it's something out of that film instead, the 2017 version. And if you're trying to say to me, this is my ultimate vision, oh, so you wanted to make him also enter in a very lame way. Fine. Yeah, okay, he stops the axe or whatever it is. But I'm still kind of like, guys, this could be a Whedon scene. And until I have definitive proof, I'm going to believe that it could be. And I'll argue that until the end of time. But yeah, Superman to me, I'm not Andy. I'm not someone who's ingrained in that character, who has a love for that character. I think ultimately my favorite superheroes are the ones that I remember from when I was 7 years old that I then never kept up with. And also
Ninja Turtles.
I think the Ninja Turtles are one of the worst things in the world, by the way. But that's for another live stream. I think they don't do pizza any services by eating it all the time. That's all. But yeah, so I'm not someone like Andy who's got this love for the character. So I couldn't care less in terms of the way you portray it, other than the fact that he was previously one of the sort of color moments in that film. And now it just feels like you're sapping that away. And yes, I know it was originally done in the black suit and then they, color graded it and made it into the classic blue and red. But I prefer the fact that he arrives and it feels like, hey, all of this talk of hope and all of this talk of, a beacon of brightness for the future of humanity or whatever, that I'm supposed to be getting from Wonder Woman, who's just murked 50 guys in this movie, I'm now not getting from the guy who I thought I was getting it from previously. I prefer Whedon's version of that character because it feels like at least this character has has the two sides to him of the humanity and this alien side, this detachment, but also this attachment. And ultimately, if you're trying to make me, a person who doesn't care about this character, care about this character, Whedon has done a better job of that than Snyder has. And I hated Man of Steel, for the record. But I also hated Batman vs. Superman when it felt like it was even further in the Snyder end. So, I don't know. I don't have anything more to say on this. I'm also going to go and get a drink, so that's why I'm going to go off the screen for a minute.
Superman has the best score. That's what we can say.
Yeah.
I genuinely think he does. Like, I think the flight theme from Superman is the best piece of music that they've done.
Yeah. Do you think if the suit was red and blue, would it change?
No, because you can make the suits as red and blue as you want, but if the character isn't anything hopeful, and if the character is once again in this hive mind of nonsense, then you're not doing anything. You're basically just adding a sixth one of the same character, and that's what it felt like.
Okay. Cool. Interesting. Cool. So let's move on. Whilst Alex is getting that, let's move on to the last two, which I believe are probably the most to do, the characters that had most to do in the movie, in comparison to one, to everyone else, and two, definitely in comparison to the original. So let's talk about The Flash. much beloved character. Andy, do you want to go first, or Nick, do you want to go?
I don't mind. Like,
cool.
So the Flash they give more to, and that's nice. Except they've made him insufferable, which isn't nice. Like, I thought he was bad in 2017. He's even worse now.
In what way?
Like, I just find his characteristics, he is just on. Like, but not on as in like, oh, this guy's kooky and funny, but he is just annoying. Mm-hmm. The whole thing of just, oh, here's my CV, but what's my CV? Oh, it's crumpled in my paper. What's in my pocket? What's in my pocket? Oh, it's my paper. Like, that's not fun. Like, it's almost like they've just done more of that. I think there are scenes in Flash that I like. I like the scene at the end where he's running through the Speed Force and it slows down time and it goes back in time. And I think visually that looks nice and is kind of a Flash moment. It doesn't match with anything we've seen of the Flash up until that point, because we already said for him to get to that point, he has to have a build up of speed. And, we've already seen the best sharpshooter in the entire army take him out. So, it doesn't make sense, but it looks nice. And I guess that's a bonus. But yeah, I said earlier in the chat, like the whole thing of like, they decided to take a fist bump out with Cyborg because they went, that doesn't fit with the tone when they're digging the grave. But instead they're going to talk about, will Wonder Woman have sex with him? Like, okay, cool. He doesn't land on her anymore, but we're still going to talk about, trying to get it on with Wonder Woman. You've not really changed much here. You could take away a little bit more and you've had a little bit more elsewhere, but it's still the same result. Like I said, I just find him really annoying. And for a character that I like the Flash. I find that this version is pretty terrible. But I like his powers. And I like the fact that they have the scene where Superman looks at him when he's running really fast. And I guess that's great. Even a man in jail can smile once a day.
Alex.
Yeah, Flash sucks. Yeah, I mean, the do you think she'd go for a younger man? That was one of those moments where I just went, okay, so you railed against the fact that that Whedon tried to sort of sexualize Wonder Woman, and yet you're doing exactly the same thing here in a way that doesn't feel like it's organic to this character. Because, I mean, not that we know anything about this character other than, hey, he's got to work 4 jobs, but we knew that in the previous one anyway.
Hold on, Alex. We do know that he would stroke a strange lady's face as she slowly goes through the air.
So actually, it does feed into exactly who this character is. He's a fucking creep, and I hate it.
He will grab a hot dog, which I thought he was then going to stroke her face with as well.
So that scene, other than being a scene to demonstrate his power and how it looks before you get to the end, is completely unnecessary, because I didn't learn anything about him that I didn't know from the 2017 version already. And also, I don't need to know how his power looks before he uses his power for the first time by showing us his power for the first time earlier. Get rid of it. It is a scene that serves absolutely no purpose other than the fact that it undermines, like, it. Okay. So we're going to get serious here. This is serious talk. So the bit where they go and save Cyborg's dad from the underground tunnel. In the Whedon version, in the original, there is a line where I don't know if Andy's talked about this while I was gone. There is a line where he says, I'm still pretty new to all of this. I don't know about all this world-saving stuff. And Batman says to him, just save one. That's a great moment for not only the Flash to demonstrate the fact that he's actually quite unsure of his own powers, because he is still relatively new to this whole thing and he doesn't see himself as a hero, but also a good moment for Batman as a mentor. It kind of feels like it feeds into a lot of the stuff that they're trying to hammer home with Batman, but you don't see any evidence of it, that he actually cares about mentoring these younger, these recruits. And with the Flash, it gives him some kind of vulnerability in terms of emotionally, he's vulnerable. Whereas in this film, he comes across as a pretty arrogant, cocky asshole who seems to be already pretty well versed in his powers, except sometimes he will still trip up. And the issue that I've got with it is that if you're removing a line that actually did something for that character, and then you're replacing him with a guy who's moaning at them for not going up the stairs fast enough, I'm kind of like, well, what is this character then? Is this character already at the height of his powers and been doing it for years and is kind of bored by this whole world-saving stuff? Or is he the character that feels like he is new to this, that we've been told he is a relatively new one on the scene? I just want some kind of consistency in the character. And the only consistency I got is that I couldn't stand him when he was on screen. But now he's in 20 more minutes. And I don't feel like I learned anything more than I knew in the 2017 version. So unlike where with Cyborg, he's given scenes that I'm sure we'll get to him, but he's given scenes where he gets to build out that backstory a bit. I mean, we'll get to it, but whatever. But with Flash, it kind of felt like, yeah, you've got more time with him, but you actually don't learn anything about him that you didn't know already. So it seems like it's pointless and it's just put in there for the sake of, hey, I shot a cool scene where a truck crashes into someone because they dropped a burger. Cool. I guess burgers are the real villains here. I will never say that again. Burgers are the heroes of the piece. Anyway, over to you guys. Please tell me I'm wrong.
Nick.
Flash, I didn't like at all in the original one, and I thought that they would have got rid of some of the stuff I didn't like in the original, but it was still in this one. Andy mentioned some of the stuff I didn't like was the CV bit. I didn't like that. The bat signal bit, hated that bit. The sausage bit intrigued me. Was that, what's he putting a sausage in his pocket for?
Always intrigued by a sausage, aren't you, Nick?
Yeah. I was like, he's a big fan of sausage. So yeah, that intrigued me. Yeah, the only bit that I really liked and was the same as Andy was the where he brought everything back. I think I messaged to you and that I really liked that bit. Visually, it looked really cool. But other than that, Flash I've never been a fan of Flash. And everything that I didn't like about Flash was still in this version. So there was only probably one bit that I liked, and that's it. So I'd probably say the sausage scene was better than some of the other scenes that he had in the rest of the film.
# restore the sausage verse.
Damn right. Bring back the sausage.
So, okay, The Flash. The Flash, I think I remember being on your podcast about in the original saying that he annoyed me in the original. He was misrepresented as what the Flash is. You still get an element of that in this because I think you're right, Alex. You get the whole where are we in terms of this superhero's life in terms of his villain fighting. They still kept in the line about gorilla sign language, which any Flash fan will know that's because of a villain that he fights. So he knows that there are villains that he's come across.
Or he's just watched a YouTube tutorial on.
Or he's just watched a YouTube tutorial. Yes, of course.
I mean, the amount of screens he's got in his lair. I'm thinking he's got some YouTube tabs on the. I mean, he's got some tabs we're not allowed to see.
No K-pop anymore, though.
No, just Rick and Morty.
No. But I think, overall, I think the Flash is always going to be one of those characters that you're always going to get cool visuals from, and you can slate Snyder for all certain decisions, but he knows how to make something look good. And I will argue that with anyone. That I think he knows how to make something look visually visually appealing. And he did that very, very well with the Flash. I think I love what he did with the Speed Force. I really, really enjoyed that. The whole Iris West scene was a bit of a conundrum for me, because I would then have expected her to be in the movie, but she wasn't. And I think that it's just more this is what would have happened originally to allow you to then know who this is in the Flash movie that we're hopefully going to get.
Movie's never coming out.
But I think that's all that set piece was for. It was to basically display some superhuman abilities, to show some cool visuals, to get a cheap gag in there with the sausage and the feeding the dogs. It's not particularly hilariously funny. Would it get a smirk out of a couple of people? Absolutely. I sat there and went, yeah, okay, that's what he got the sausage for. I thought he was literally taking the sausage so he could eat it at home. Like, that's what I thought. It was an odd choice that you didn't get the bun and the sauce as well. If you're going that quick, you might as well get the full hot dog. But it was just there for, it looks nice. And like I said, the Flash is always going to be one of those that, because of his abilities, it's always going to look jazzy. It's always going to look fun, that someone can go at supernatural speeds is in comparison to everyone else. You can always have fun with that. Look at the Quicksilver stuff that we got in X-Men. You can have a lot of fun with it. I'm not saying that these are in comparison to each other, but that just goes to show that you can have fun with that particular superpower. And again, with him reversing time, I think that they got a little bit more in with Flash's kind of Flash's jam more than anything is the whole time manipulation thing. And obviously they didn't really get that in the original. They got this one in a little bit more. So they kind of introduced to movie watchers what the Flash is a little bit more about, which I quite liked with the whole time manipulation thing. Whilst they only kind of touched on it, and at the end of it, like you said, it kind of didn't really make much sense how he got there very quickly, because he was running around a lot to build up speed. He then fell over and then managed to get to that speed very quickly without having to run around. So what was the point in the first place? But I liked how they managed to introduce a little bit more about what the character is about, in terms of what the Flash is and what he is about in his own kind of story arc and his own potential, his own movie going forward. Because obviously we know, well, let's say we know what we're going to get. Hopefully we get that movie, but it's going to be the whole Flashpoint stuff, which is all about time manipulation and things like that. So I think it's more of just a kind of a foot in the door, almost, to kind of say, this is what we've got as a snippet of the Flash. We're going to get a shitload more of it in his own movie, but this is what you could get from him. And if you like this taster, wait till you get the full meal, almost, kind of. But in terms of his annoyingness, in terms of his kind of like unbearableness from his personality, that's all still there. But I'm thinking back to the 2017 version, and some of the stuff that Whedon added in definitely didn't make that any better. But then again, taking Whedon's stuff out didn't necessarily make it any better either. It was just like, the character is what the character is, and that's because that's how you've defined that character. You can try and cover him up and make him add and say other things. That character is just going to be what that character is, which unfortunately is misinterpreted. But I like the fact that he's got a lot more to do in this. I love the Flash as a character. I always have done. I'm a massive fan of time travel. So someone that has an ability to be able to time travel and manipulate time as part of their superpower, I'm always going to, get involved in that. So Flash, to me, it will always be one of those that I always want the best for. Very similar to Batman. Like, I'm always going to have a biased opinion about Batman just because I love Batman. The same with the Flash. I'll always kind of try to see the best in the Flash and how he's represented, but I'm not blind to the shortcomings of it, because you can't not see it. His annoyingness is there, which hopefully they kind of iron out in the Flash movie. Fingers crossed if we ever get it. But yeah, I like that. That being said, I like the Flash more in this movie than I did in the last movie, but that's because he's got more to do, and it shows more visibility. Okay, last one. Alex, it sounded like you wanted to get into Cyborg. So Cyborg is one of those that was pretty much sidelined in the entire movie in the original cut, and seemingly was probably a main character in this one. Alex, talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, look, in the original cut of this, we had him deliver one of the worst lines in any movie ever, when he said, "Oh yeah, you don't want the world to see the monster." He says, "Oh well, I just don't know if it's safe for you out there." Interesting that you thought I was talking about me. Oh God, awful. But the problem is, that's a Snyder line. We know that from the fact that the rest of the scene is retained here, and he's already said there is not a single shot by Whedon that is left in this film. But presumably that means that whole scene is a Snyder scene, and he's just cut the one line that made me groan louder than most scenes in that movie. And I groaned a lot in both of these movies. Yeah, I mean, look, he's given a bit more to do here. His character, again, isn't consistent, and I still don't agree with putting in character moments if you're not going to follow them. Him doing that whole thing with the waitress and, giving her $100,000 or whatever, because he can manipulate that. And then in the scene afterwards saying, "Fuck the world, it deserves to die." Well, which is it then? You either care about humans or you don't care about humans or the planet you live on. If the character is going to see this and go, "Oh, I've got this pang of empathy," and then that empathy is like, "Oh, well, that's the last shred of empathy I've got here. I better just tell everyone in the world to go fuck themselves because I'm looking after no one because fuck them. Oh yeah, that $100,000, that was a mistake. Sorry, guys." But then he watches her smiling as she withdraws it from an ATM. Hey, we've got a coherent tone here, and the coherent tone is Zack Snyder doesn't understand what he shot already. Looks-wise, can I talk about the look of Cyborg?
I think we touched on this on the original podcast. You say he looked like tinfoil or something.
Yeah, crumpled tinfoil. Still bad. Maybe even worse, I think, in certain scenes. But look, I mean, the visuals aside, because if you're going to start nitpicking on the visuals, that's nothing to do with the character. But the character itself is given more to do in terms of you've got a lot more screen time for the character here. I've seen a lot of people saying he's the emotional heart of the story, but also fuck the world. So I don't know. And I can understand why you want to make him the emotional core of the film, because he comes from a mother box. He is inextricably linked to the situation you're in. That's kind of the basis of it. In terms of the way I see it, at least. The way I see the character is he is born of this magic. Sorry, not magic. It only looks like sorcery because the technology is so advanced. So he's born of that technology, so he is linked to all of the events. Fine, I can understand it. But what you've done is it feels still like you shoehorned in some backstory that you've actually just gone, "Oh, well, we'll give him an absent father and we'll give him a mother who tragically passes, and then we'll make him a recluse because his father maybe just isn't around still because he's too busy at the labs." But I've seen this before, and what you haven't done is actually flesh him out to be three-dimensional. He's one-dimensional still. It's just you've given him a different dimension to be. Instead of just moody, he's now moody. But now you know why he's moody. It's still one dimension. He still doesn't have anything. He's got these weird walk-around moments where he does this living history tour of a Nazi camp, which is just like, it is just awful. I saw that and I was like, he's the character who has the most video game cutscenes in the movie. And the problem is that I'm seeing all these reactions to it and saying, "Oh, wow, it really hit me emotionally." I couldn't care less. I thought he was one of the most boring characters in it, tied with all the other characters, to be fair. other than weirdly Flash, who I hated so. And Brian made a good point in the comments of, I'd rather have the Flash's really obnoxious personality than no personality. So I take that comment on board and I say, you know what, I'm probably wrong on that one. You don't know what you've got till it's gone, and I would love to have that Flash over a Flash with no personality. But Cyborg has also no personality because you've tried to set him up as this empathetic character, and then you've gone, fuck the world. Okay, well, I guess I don't know anything about him then. So I know as much as I did in the 2017 version, except I've watched him for an hour now. That's the only difference. Anyway, I'll shut up. Andy, go on. Or Nick, and please, someone positive, actually.
I'll be quick. I understand why Ray Fisher is annoyed at the original cut, because we can now clearly see that he had a whole lot of stuff filmed that wasn't included. And I get that, this is your big break and you weren't on the screen enough, and that's bad. And, there's also all this horrible stuff that went on behind the scenes that, is terrible. And I understand why you're bad. But I also don't believe in a choice where you make him sad that his father has died and he has lost everything, when the only time we seem to think there is a connection between him and his father is his dad sees him walking with the Justice League and is like, oh, I guess my son's doing a good thing now. And that's it. And then I'm supposed to care that his dad dies. Like, I'm supposed to be like, oh no, I can't believe his dad died after they had that great connection. Like, you can say he's the emotional heart of the story, and yes, he gets more to do, and that's great. And I think it is great to see more of this character because it's one of the ones we know nothing about. So it's also great to see more about it. But also to then shoehorn of, oh no, now he's lost everything, and now things are really personal for him, when that makes no sense at all. Completely undermines the entire idea that you're having with him.
Well, can I just jump in here? I also don't think the touchdown was a legitimate touchdown.
I thought that as well.
Was it too slow?
Well, no, because he touches the flag, but I'm pretty sure he never actually he gets knocked out of play before he's able to make any contact. I have a feeling that when we were watching the Super Bowl this year, there was some kind of technicality that disallowed a touchdown being scored in a very similar fashion. And I do wonder if, hey, maybe someone didn't throw a flag on the field and say, hey, this isn't legit. All I'm saying is it's
worst character.
Yeah,
you're
stolen
right.
honor.
You're right.
He's not. Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of my
football
feeling.
Hero.
He's a fraud. Nick,
I think it's great to have some stuff, but what have you given me?
Okay. Nick.
So I liked that they expanded the story because I wanted to see, with all the hoopla with Ray Fisher, to see what all the fuss was about. So I did like there was some context. I got excited when I heard Miles Dyson crying in front of Cyborg doing his Terminator 2. That got me excited. I was sat there, I was like, am I hearing Terminator 2? But yeah, for me, what I didn't like was this is the first Justice League movie, and you have reduced Superman and Batman to sort of minimal roles or footage and put more or less Cyborg up front and center. And for me to watch a Justice League movie, I would have wanted Batman and Superman to be up there, up in front, sort of leading the sort of team, or whether that be Batman. And yeah, I felt like them two took a bit of a backseat, and it didn't feel like a proper Justice League that I would expect to see. Not to say that I didn't like the movie, but I want more Batman and Superman, which it just didn't give me. Cyborg, yeah, it's a good story and a good character, but that's not what I wanted to watch the film for. So yeah, it's okay. What I saw, it did what it did for the story, but yeah, that was it.
Cool.
I'm the only one ruined Nicky.
I think
we broke him.
No, you know what? I do like the film, but there is a lot of
I think it's probably fair to point out that when you dissect something this big over this amount of detail, it's very easy to make things sound a lot worse than they are when your overall point of view is positive. Because it's very easy to nitpick at things like that. So, and we'll cover that in like overall assessments at the end. And we're getting the end. Don't worry, we are getting towards the end. So, don't worry. I think I'm the only one that liked the inclusion of Cyborg here. Then, I really quite enjoyed it for what it was. Alex, I get your point. Totally get your point because I questioned the same thing about. I really quite liked. It when it dived into the fact that his dad telling him like your ability isn't what you can do, like that's going to be easy for you, it's how you choose to use it. And then you see this really nice touching moment, or you see this really hardworking woman that's getting down on life, and he decides to help her out. And then in the same breath, he then turns around and says "fuck the world," and you kind of question where this character's morals lie. But I just kind of took it as, he's still really frustrated with life at this point because he's been thrusted back into the world, into a figure that he doesn't like to be in. And he's just acting out in a way that most people probably would in a situation that they're forced into that they don't want to be in. So I didn't mind it, if I'm being honest. Like, I get it. Like, you go, well, he's helping out the world, but then he's saying, no, fuck it. Like, I get the fact that doesn't make much sense. But I just kind of saw it for him just acting out more than anything. He's just having his little moment of kind of like petulance almost to kind of say, no, I don't want to be like this. I didn't ask you to make me like this. You're only doing this because of your guilt from, not being here with me. And this is the whole reason I'm here. And now you're basically telling me that I'm going to be the savior of the world. Like, who gives you the right to do that? And if that's what you're saying because you're an absent father, fuck that. But reality is that he is actually a nice guy. He helps people out by cheating, apparently, in college, and he's I think overall it was just that one moment of petulance was just down to his just kind of rebelliousness against his own father. But I quite liked the inclusion. I found some of the ways that they depicted his inclusion in the movie very odd. And like you said, kind of like the third person element of it, where he's talking about a story that he's in, but he's then also a different person within that story telling the story. It felt very weird, but I quite liked it. And like Andy said, it's nice that you get this character that I think a lot of people were excited to see, a new character that not most people will know. Cyborg, not your average moviegoer will know who Cyborg is. And from the original cut, you felt very cheated by the fact that you still didn't know who he was. This, it kind of gives you a little bit more into this person and what he's about. And I quite liked it that he had a much more upfront role within it, because if you're introducing a character within a movie that no one really knows what he's about, then you should expect him to have a good chunk of screen time to be able to, one, show you what he's about, but then to include him in the overall story. And I think that worked quite nice personally. I quite liked it, and a damn sight better than I did in the original. So I feel like I'm separate to you guys in terms of your opinions on it, but I quite liked it. In terms of the heart and the soul of the story, I think that's a bit far. He the reason that you say that he's the heart and soul of the story is because he's got an emotional attachment within his backstory that you don't get from anyone else. And that's the reason why people are saying heart and soul. I think it's too far to say he's the heart and soul of the story. He has a touching story because it's one where he has been forced into the world by what he thinks is an absent father, who then somehow then decides that they love each other, and then he loses his father, which is a horrible thing to have to see, even if you don't feel like you have the strongest connection. Seeing your father eviscerated in front of you it's a tough day at the office. I'm not going to lie, it's not one of your standout days, really, whether or not you've got a good connection with him or not. Seeing him blow up is not nice, and especially as that's your only living father. So you can see why people say he's the heart and soul, because no one wants to see that. No one wants to see that. So yeah, but I quite enjoyed it.
Did make me laugh where he's like hiding from everyone, but then when he puts the cash in the bank, he's just casually walking down the street with everyone seeing him in all his glory.
I also like there's this, in stories where people are like really like self-conscious about whatever it is. Him's obviously being a half cyborg, and everyone in the street or everyone around them acts so stereotypically old-fashioned. Like anything that is different to me is like, no, it's so bad. Where people like react so over the top. Like if you saw someone walking down the street looking like that, you would just think they're on a way to a party in fancy dress. You wouldn't really care. You wouldn't cower behind your boyfriend, would you? But no, I think that I liked Cyborg's inclusion. I liked the way that they built it in, that he had more to do with the mother boxes, and that he would literally like go in there and unpick them. Like you said, Alex, because he is he's born of the mother boxes, it makes sense for him to actually go in there and kind of undo all the shit that they're going to do. But yeah, I quite enjoyed it. So I guess I'm the odd one out in this, but I'm happy to be the black sheep of the family. So let's go on to both of the villains of the movie. We got Steppenwolf and Darkseid, and we'll go over both of them together because we've characters we've been going on for a while now. So we've got some sexy pictures of Steppenwolf. There he is mid-battle. Oh, look at that hunk.
He's got some added purple in.
I think that's just the shine. He went a bit pearlescent. And then we've got Darkseid. So there he is in all of his glory. What do we think about these two, Alex?
A couple of villains from another world. One of them's like Thanos, and one of them isn't. Look, they're interchangeable with basically any other villains in any other of these movies, as far as I can tell, and I mean that in a superhero movie sort of way. Steppenwolf, yeah, you're right. He gets a little bit more of a backstory into how he somehow has failed Darkseid, which you had in the first one, but not really explored that much. You just had it said he failed him, and this is his punishment or whatever. And in this one, you go, oh, well, he failed him by maybe not being near him when someone died. I actually still don't really understand what the difference is here. And Darkseid doesn't really like speaking on the phone. That's what I get. Darkseid is very much, and like I was saying earlier, when they talk about this anti-life equation, this reverse infinity gauntlet or whatever you want to call it, they're all the same thing. I get it. It's a bad guy who wants to have the power to destroy the universe, because who wouldn't want that, right? I mean, cyborgs after that, fuck the world. But yeah, I mean, what more can you say on it, really? I think, them replacing Steppenwolf in the sort of flashback battle scene that Gal Gadot narrates so passionately, I think is probably a good thing if you're going to make a trilogy of these films, a bad thing if you're not, because it means that I don't really understand why you're introducing this character with the concept of, hey, in 4 years' time, you're still not going to get to see him in a movie because this is the end of the road for this. But hey, it's the original vision, and that's what matters. Yeah, I mean, fairly bland, interchangeable character who doesn't really... that has no personality as far as I can tell, but then again, I say that of pretty much any of the villains in the Marvel universe as well. So, they've got the opposite powers or the same powers as their opposite number. And I'm just going to presume that Darkseid can do some underwater stuff, some sword stuff, some Batman stuff, and some laser eye stuff. And he's like all of them combined into one. I'm guessing that's what it is. I don't know. The lava stuff looks stupid. Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, it's fine. Like, the greatest trick Snyder ever pulled was making us think that most of this film is going to be set on apocalypse / nightmare. Like, the fact that we have a glimpse is nice. I like the fact we get to see Darkseid's laser eyes. That's pretty cool.
Mega beams were pretty cool.
But, that's it. Like, do I know anything more about him? No. Like, me knowing what the anti-life equation is, do I still understand what it means in this movie? No. Is it literally just a lot of words? Yeah, probably. It's like I said, like it's standard kind of big bad material. It's not terrible, but it ain't great. It's nothing new and exciting, but it's also not the worst I've seen.
Cool.
I have nothing more to add.
I much preferred Steppenwolf in this version. Less talking about his mother and doing it in a pervy way. I like that he felt like a villain, where he's dragging out the Atlanteans out the water and just going to the Amazons and just smashing people up. You felt like he could do some damage, and he looked brutal with all the spikes and stuff. And I liked that he had a bit, not too much of a backstory, but you understood what he was doing and who he was doing it for, and him having that sort of interaction. Other than that, Darkseid, you didn't see him too much, but I think I liked that I saw him, where he sort of appeared at the end. Again, obviously it's Snyder's vision to lead into another one, of which you would have seen more of him. It was enjoyable. I preferred Steppenwolf for what he was. That's it.
I'm going to give a little bit more energy into these because I loved these. I really, really loved the difference in Steppenwolf, and I loved seeing Darkseid as a fan of DC characters and DC villain, especially Darkseid. Like I was super hyped to see him, super hyped to see him, and he didn't get much screen time, no. But when you think back to all the the starting Marvel times, do you get to see a lot of Thanos? No, you don't. And this was conceived as the first part of a 3-part. So whilst you may not get part 2 and part 3, who knows what's going to happen? He's stuck to his original version of, you're not going to see much of him because it's an introduction into the character, and you can't expect to get endgame Thanos from Darkseid in this. You just can't expect it because it's not the way that this story is going. This story is going into a place where the third one, you're probably going to get a fuck ton of him. Don't get me wrong. But this one, you're not. It's an introduction into the character. So was I happy that I got to see as much of Darkseid as I did? Hell yeah. Did I get to see the Omega beams? Yeah. I'm jumping at joy at that. Yes, it wasn't that great, and it wasn't like I would love to watch the camera go with the beam around and go through someone. But I saw them. That's a fan. That's it's a thing for a fan to jump up and down about.
What are Omega beams?
They're his beams from his eyes that he uses, and they go all over the place before they hit someone.
This happened in the film.
Yes. Yeah. So it was where. Yeah. It was.
I'll take your word for it.
Yes, it was when someone he did it to someone in underwater.
There were a lot of laser beams.
There were a lot of
what
laser
I would
beams.
say.
But Steppenwolf, I really enjoyed his character a lot more than I did in the original version. Like I said, there was much more of a character rather than just being there to serve a purpose as a villain that wants to do villainous stuff. He's doing this because he is, one, being forced into it, and two, because he's trying to get into good graces into someone that pretty much thinks he's a piece of shit. And he's getting Desard, who is someone that you didn't even know existed in the last one, to kind of be that little messenger to kind of go to poke the bear a little bit, to say, look where I am, look where you could have been, you piece of shit, go and do some more work. And it gives the character a little bit more drive to want to do it. So you, like I said, you don't empathize with him, but you get more of, you get to understand why he is being the way that he is being. He's being brutal. He's being as horrible as he wants to, as he has to be, because he needs to get into the good graces of the guy that is going to own the universe. Like, you understand him a little bit more. And I think his aesthetic looks a million times better. Million times better. He's more in line with what you see in the hologram in BVS. Is pretty much identical to that. and he doesn't look like a grown-up Dobby, which is always a bonus, because what they did with him in the 2017 version was nothing short of fucking criminal. He looked terrible. It just looked like
half William Wallace.
It looked like Dobby with a beard, a Viking helmet, and a skirt. That's what it looked. That's what he looked like. I just didn't. It really, really pissed me off when I got. That's what we got. So I'm much happier with the villains of this version, because as a fan, more than anything, I got them. I got to see them, and that's all that I really hoped for in this, because I know that this was already and originally conceived as a first part of a 3-part show. So I was never going to get a Darkseid that's going to come down and fuck shit up. It was never going to happen. So I never expected it. What I got of Darkseid was exactly what I expected. A brooding, intimidating man that eventually at the end of it succumbs and basically says, right, I'll go. It's almost kind of like a borrowed line from Marvel, where Thanos puts the glove on and gauntlet on and says, I'll do it myself, where he goes, we'll go back to the old ways. Like, it's pretty much the same thing, but it's it's what you expect from a big bad in that situation. It's kind of like looking down at it and going, well, they think they're the shit, but let me go show them what I'm really about. And that's what you get from that character. So I can't ask for any more. And I'm happy with what I got, because it's exactly what I got. So I loved it. I think
Ray Porter did wicked with the voice as well.
Yeah, his voice was awesome.
And I'll give you this, he looks great.
Yeah.
Aesthetically, he looks awesome.
For the look of him, and the design, the character design is great for a film that at times the CGI is very dodgy, repeatedly throughout the film. His look is great, and I will give you that as an olive branch to be like, okay, yes.
Going on to dodgy CGI, David Thewlis in this, did you notice him as Ares in it for some reason? Was the weirdest inclusion in this movie I think I've ever seen. It's just like they've just went, let's just get his face from a movie somewhere and just plonk it onto this dude that looks big. It was very, very weird. But overall, villains I really, really enjoyed. I know that, and move from one villain, from two villains to another. Let's talk about the Nightmare scene. Let's talk.
I'm waiting for Alex to chuck his can on the floor.
Let's talk about the Nightmare scene and the Joker. So now, just for context, this was a scene that we know was refilmed. This was part of the reshoot. So this was the only thing apparently that was reshot, which we know is not true. If you've seen the very end scene with Martian Manhunter, that is very new. You can clearly tell by the look of Ben Affleck. But this is the only scene apparently that was reshot with the inclusion of the Joker, because Snyder retrospectively decided that he wanted to include the Joker in it, because I get the feeling that he thought he could never do it later on down the line, because this is his last hurrah, and he wanted to get some kind of interaction between the Joker and Batman. Now, I can tell by the already kind of exhausted faces of Andy and Alex of where this is going to go. But let's find out.
So let's start positive, one of you guys.
We'll tell you what, we'll do it sandwich this time. We'll go you, us, because I don't think Nick liked this either by the look of his face. So we'll see. Alex, you go first.
Worst scene in a movie full of terrible scenes. Look, it's the only reason Joker is here is for Zack Snyder to try and gain some kind of, I think, fan approval from the people who really like Leto's Joker. And hey, look, there's one in the top left. Does it feel anything more than a gimmick? No. Does it feel of consequence? Absolutely not. It just felt like, I mean, you can tell that this is a reshot scene where no one was in the same room at the same time, because it all looks like staged interactions between people who've never spoken to each other before.
That's COVID interactions, Alex.
Yes, that is true. Although, if you were to tell me, oh, can you at least emote like you might have known this guy for 20 years? I could do that because, I'm a semi-professional actor. But look, the problem that I had with this scene is, A, I think it's the worst directed scene in the movie. B, I think it's the worst written scene in the movie. And guess what? I didn't think the movie was well written in the first place. I've got to the point with it where I've accepted the fact that it was here to be put into a trailer, and it turns out the only bit they used in the trailer was the only bit they decided to cut out of it. Interesting that his original vision for this includes bits that he then cuts out because he doesn't think they're good enough, or because it's too much of a meme.
Just to interject, I think that was more of a self-aware meme thing, because Leto has since had an interview. I've not watched it, but he is wearing a T-shirt that says "We live in a society." So I think that it was more a marketing thing of a self-aware meme thing rather than an actual inclusion.
It was 100% a marketing thing. It's a shame. It's a shame that they didn't bother making it good in the film, isn't it? Look, I think Leto's performance as Joker in Suicide Squad is completely different to, whatever else you want from that character, probably. And it leans into him being some kind of weird trap lord gangster. Fine, whatever. If that's what David Ayer wanted to do with the character, then fine. What you've got here is this sort of nightmare vision of him. And, I mean, what I will say is that Batman's got some boring-ass nightmares. A couple of people have grown some stubble is basically the limit of his imagination of a post-apocalyptic future. And, guess what? A long-haired version of your mortal enemy is there, who you threaten in the most pathetic way. If this Batman that we are led to believe is Snyder's interpretation of Batman will kill people without compunction, then why is he not dead already? Oh, let me get this straight. I will fucking kill you. Why haven't you done it already? You've killed so many people on screen so far. So if you're dreaming about saying that to him, either he's dead already and you've imagined him, in which case I've got no problem with it. I still think it's terribly written, but I've got no problem with him being there and not being dead because he's already dead in the past. But if you're dreaming of him because he's still alive in your timeline, then I've got massive problems with that, because you would just kill all of your villains. But that also opens up the possibility of, hey, if we'd have ever got the Batman Affleck film, would we have just seen him destroying villains and then them never coming back, despite the fact they might sell tickets? Hey, cool. Don't worry, guys. It's probably fine, and it's close to the end now, so you don't have to hear me.
Nick.
I think this was one of the scenes I was looking forward to the most. And I think when it was coming towards the end of the film, I think I was checking the time of it and thinking, where the hell is this scene? And when it came, Amber Heard absolutely pissed me off with her horrendous accent. I was like, what the hell is going on here? So that ruined the start of it for me. And then I just felt like I did enjoy the back and forth between Joker and Batman. Just because it was unexpected for me. So I enjoyed that. But I felt, what was the point of Deathstroke being there? I think I would have preferred a bit of banter between them two, because you've got a scene just before it on a boat with Lex Luthor, and then come to that scene, there's nothing between Batman and Deathstroke. It's like they're best friends. But yeah, and then you've got a recycled Superman scene, which they've took from either BVS or Man of Steel.
Yeah, there's two of those.
Yeah, so the scene was a bit disappointing, but I did like the back and forth with Batman and Joker. But yeah, again, it was another scene where I thought, before the film came out, I was thinking, is there going to be like a half an hour scene of a nightmare sequence? Which I was probably looking forward to. And when it was sort of dumbed down to probably 2-3 minutes, I was like, yeah, I probably wanted a bit more from that. So yeah, I liked a little bit of it, but I think my expectations were a bit higher than what I got.
Andy?
Yes, I remember you guys doing a live when the trailer came out, and you were like, oh yeah, this is going to be like a whole scene. It's going to be set here. We're going to have a whole great time. And I remember at that time, Alex said to me, this is going to be a post-credit scene, and we've basically seen all we're going to see. So I was kind of ready for it to be that. I think it's the worst scene in the film. I think it's by far the worst written scene in the entire film. This whole back and forth of, oh, but you've lost a lot of people, haven't you? Oh, what are you saying, Joker? I'll get you if you keep saying that. But oh, what if I say that your partner's dead? Oh, Joker, I'll get you if you keep saying my partner's dead. He's like, oh, yeah, guy died. He's like, well, fuck you, Joker. And everyone's like, oh, Batman swore. Like, is that what that scene's there for? Like, otherwise, what is it there for? Because we already know there's visions of a nightmare. Like, we already know that exists. There's literally no reason for this scene. But you put it in because Joker sells tickets. We know that. Joaquin Phoenix proved Joker sells tickets. This Batman with a gun must sell tickets. It's all kind of there for marketing purposes with little payoff. It is visually one of the ugliest scenes in the film.
Doesn't Joker talk about wanking Batman off?
He talks about giving him a reach
actually.
around, yeah. Talks about giving him a reach around, yeah.
Because why not? If we're going all in, Flash gets the little hot dog out his pocket.
He's still a trap lord gangster.
I think performance-wise, it's one of the worst. Like, nobody gives a shit, including Snyder, I'm assuming, at this point. I've seen people come out and say, oh, this is the definitive Joker now. Like, this Joker scene between him and Batman is better than the interrogation scene in The Dark Knight. And this elevates Leto above anything that any Joker's been before. And I have to believe I watched a different film.
Or that you found Ant's account that he tweets from.
Maybe. Or I had an aneurysm. That is also possible. Like, this is all some kind of like dream that's going on in my head. Like, I'm not even on a stream right now.
It's your own nightmare sequence.
Yeah,
Andy,
I'm going to wake up.
Oh, it looks way better than the version we saw in the film, though.
Well, I'm going to wake up and there's going to be a terribly CGI'd Martian Manhunter just like, hey, yeah, Alex is the key. And I'm like, oh no, I need to keep him safe.
In fairness, that is true.
I cannot fathom how this Joker is good. I cannot see it. And I cannot see, like, I could basically say, oh, maybe this makes me look favorably on the Suicide Squad Joker. But no, it makes me realize that this has just been a terrible decision for the Joker all along. Like, this version has just been terrible all along. And I know you're going to disagree with me, Ant, and I'm just setting up the pins for you to knock some down. But I think the interaction is terrible. And that's what it's there for.
I won't take this as a personal attack. I will not take this as a personal attack.
And I think, Ant, you're a garbage man.
Look. I'll start off with saying I am confused. And I am confused for one very simple reason, is that we know that this movie, or this part of the movie, was reshot. And it was reshot for the purposes of, one, including the Joker, and two, ending on somewhat of a cliffhanger. Now, my confusion comes in the question of, if you knew you were never going to make a second or a third, why then do that? Other than to just, like you said, sell tickets or get people hyped because the Joker's there. So that annoyed me, because it very much, it lends to this is where we're going. We're going down this rabbit hole. Now, the first version's over. The second and third movie of this is very much Nightmare, Injustice, Evil Superman, whatever you want to call it. That's where you're going. That is where you're going. But if that wasn't what you originally did, why then make it so when you know there's not going to be a second and third? It makes it, that confuses me, just as a side point to why that's even there. In terms of the Joker, you know my thoughts on the Joker. You know my thoughts on Jared Leto as the Joker, so I won't go too far into it. I just feel like he's just very much the same kind of character, just less neon. Is the only way to really describe Ayer's Joker is a very neon-looking Joker. Everything's very bright, everything's very purple, everything's very colourful. This one is more muted and longer hair and shitty teeth, apparently. But it's very much the same kind of Joker. And as you know, I like that Joker. So I know there's no surprises here when I say I like this Joker. I just quite like him. I did see today that article saying that this elevates, this sequence between Batman and Joker elevates that of the interrogation scene in The Dark Knight, which is a load of shit because it's just wrong. Regardless of my thoughts of this Joker or not, that is factually incorrect. That's not an opinion. That's just factually incorrect. But did I like to see the back and forth with Ben Affleck and the Joker as fans of Ben Affleck as Batman and Jared Leto as the Joker? Yeah. Was the dialogue between them a bit corny? Yeah. Was the reach around joke completely out of place and unnecessary? Yeah. But did I like to see the Joker goad Batman about beating Robin up? And did I like to see Batman go back about telling him how Harley Quinn died and both of them looking like they want to kill each other? Yeah, I also liked that as well. And whilst the dialogue wasn't the smartest or or it wasn't the most witty, and it was probably very basic, as a Batman and Joker fan, I don't care. If I'm being honest,
do you think Joker's hand was waiting for the sausage?
This is like with the reach around time. No, like you could quite clearly see that when Joker was goading Batman about the Boy Wonder coming to do a man's job and them a little back and forth, that he was getting pissed and then he retorted and he almost got him. That's the kind of stuff as a Batman and Joker fan I want to see. That's the kind of stuff I want to see. And whether or not it's good dialogue or not, I don't give a shit. I got it. So I'm happy. It put a smile on my face.
You're happy. That's the main thing.
It put a smile on my face. Do I think that it was necessary? No. No, obviously it wasn't, because it was a reshot scene that leads on to something that we're not going to get. So do I think it's necessary? The answer is obviously no. Do I like what I got? Yeah, because I'm a fanboy of both of them. So yeah, of course I'm going to like it. And then that lends onto the whole overarching thing that this movie, this 4-hour epic movie, was made for fans. It wasn't made for average movie watchers. It was made for fans of Snyder, for one. It was made for fans of Snyder because we both know that we both know, all four of us know here, that Snyder is very, very self-indulgent. You can't not say that he's not self-indulgent. And he loves the fact that people love him. He loves the fact that people love him. So you've got fans of it, and you're always going to get the people that love it regardless. You're always going to get those people that love it regardless. But this movie was made for comic book fans in terms of certain things aren't explained because he already just expects you to know what they're for. Whether or not you agree with those choices and why they're used is by the by. This movie was made for those that kind of go, oh, I recognize that from that comic, or I recognize that from that comic, or all that from this. That's what this movie was about. And also his self-indulgence, I think. So, yeah, I mean, going back to the nightmare scene, it wasn't necessary. The Deathstroke and Amber and Mira being there made no sense at all. The fact that Superman turns up and potentially obliterates it makes no real difference. All that is doing is just trying to set fans to go mad to start another campaign. That is all that scene is for. And you already got it. You've already got it. You've already got the hashtags. Restore the Snyderverse. You've already got those hashtags. You've already got that following, because he knows that his fans will petition for him because they already have done, and he was successful in that campaign. So that's what that was for.
Yeah,
in my opinion. Not necessary. No. Do I mind that it's in there? Also, no. So.
Can I just make a point about the whole "this is made for fans"?
Are you jumping in? Okay.
Can I?
No, yeah, you go ahead. I was loading myself up.
I'll make the same point I made on the podcast today, which is I've already seen the argument of this film isn't made for you. it's made, like, for people who are saying they don't like it, the retort is, this film isn't made for you, it's made for the fans, which I feel fundamentally cannot be the truth. Because if this film is Snyder's original vision, there is no way he made a film that is not for general consumption. If this film was his original vision, which is a 4-hour film that is only for the fans, there is a reason why he was fired/removed from the project. Because you cannot put a film out there that general audiences do not like. Or this film is made for the fans and is made only for the fans, in which case it is not his original vision. It can only be one of the two, and it cannot be both. If you're going to say that I don't get this because I'm not a fan, like, I am a fan of DC, but at the same time, you have to make a film that is good. And unfortunately, Snyder, in that case, you have failed the general audience. Alex, feel free if you wish to.
I mean, you've covered. Go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
No, I was saying drop the mic.
Oh, drop the mic. Okay.
It's too expensive to drop.
So, I agree with Andy's point there in terms of, look, if you're saying to me, hey, this movie wasn't made for you, it was made for real fans, #real fans, as we all know. Now, I was at the midnight screening of Justice League 2017, unlike, I think, any of you, right? Were you there?
I was the night of, not you were the 12 o'clock.
Man, feels good to know that I'm the only one who actually cares about this fucking film. And look, if you're telling me that, hey, this version, the original vision, was not made for an audience, it was made for a fandom, it was made for a collective of people who all fundamentally understand everything to do with the comic books that you're reading from here, have read every single issue of Flash, have read every single issue of Batman, and don't recognize any of these characters being the same as the ones in those comic books, as far as I can tell, then you are fundamentally failing as a filmmaker to do your one job, which is make a fundamentally functional film. Because what you're doing is you're going all Bertolt Brecht and alienating the audience to the point where, yeah, it's a theatre reference, don't worry, guys.
Never thought we'd mention Brecht.
If you're alienating an audience who are supposed to, and look, if you're throwing $300 million at a project like this, then yeah, you damn sure better sell some tickets. And guess what? Just fans aren't going to be enough to break the $1 billion you need to really make this the statement movie that it was trying to be. So if you're saying to me, it's fine because this movie was never made for me, it was only made for fans. I was there first night, midnight screening. So I'm a real fucking fan.
I'm not saying it wasn't made for you. I'm not saying it wasn't made for you. It was specifically made for you.
Oh, was it?
You are the fan. You are
so
the
hashtag real fan. Okay, well, why do I hate this movie so much? Can you answer that question? So if it's made for the real fans, and if those real fans are the ones on Twitter giving dogs abuse to any critic who doesn't give it a 5-star rating, then guess what? I'm delighted I'm not a real fan, that I was there as an imposter. I mean, we all know I'm technically still the realest of all fans. But if the movie is made for the express intention of alienating 90% of your potential audience, then as a filmmaker, you're doing something inherently wrong. You are supposed to, as filmmakers, you should always be striving to make a film that speaks to everyone in some way. You know, you might not connect to it in the same way that someone else does, or you might connect to it in a different way and they connect to something completely different. And it's what the best films are always able to do. They're able to be cross-generational, they're able to be cross-cultural, and they're able to speak to different notions within ourselves. This film, if I'm being sort of labeled as, oh, well, you know, the target audience for this is one who knows everything about the God equation or whatever it was called. I don't know anything about that. But what I also don't know is why you're trying to set up these characters as having these long and storied histories And we've never met most of them at all. The fact that you fast-tracked this movie into production, that you, as Zack Snyder, said, well, I want to do a Justice League movie, and I don't want to wait 10 years until everyone's actually had their own solo movies, so you actually get a fundamental understanding of who these characters are on a human level. If I'm being told, oh, well, Flash, he works in a pet shop now or whatever. Okay, fine. That's all I know about the character. And I know that he presumes he has jobs before he's even given the jobs, actually. So, but I've never had any actual one-on-one time with that character to establish who he is. If you're going to fast-track this movie, then don't be surprised if I go, well, I don't understand what's going on, and I don't think you wanted me to understand what's going on. And if that's the case, then you are a terrible filmmaker. And I've said that before about Zack Snyder post Dawn of the Dead, because I think that is his last good film. Anyway, I loved it. 10 out of 10.
What about Legends of the Guardians? Alza Gahul.
I never said that he's a good. I mean, there's probably a conversation for a different time. We're probably running out of time now. Actually, thinking about it.
Apologies, that kind of went off track.
I think all the point that I was making is that Snyder knows his fan base. He knows his fan base, and he knows them. That I feel like he knows his fan base very well. And you could argue sometimes he knows his fan base more than he knows the characters he's portraying. So he knows how to play to that audience, and he will play to that audience regardless. And we know that he's had multiple issues with the studio. With his vision of what he wants to do and what they want to portray out, which is no secret to anyone. So we know that he goes for a certain type of movie or a certain type of audience, and that's who I believe that this movie is for, is fans of his work. And whether or not you agree that he is a good movie maker or not, I suppose is by the by. Like, people will agree, people will argue. I mean, I'm not one of those people. I can see faults where faults are, and I will praise what I think is praiseworthy. But you will get people out there that will swear blind that Zack Snyder is the best thing since the coming of Jesus. Like, you will argue that he is the best thing ever, which is obviously not true. But they're the audience that he will cater to, and they're the audience that will respond to this. That's what he goes for, and that's why he has problems with the studio, because the studio don't want just that audience; they want the population.
Yeah, I mean, all I would say on this is, the studio chose him as the creative head of this new universe in 2013 and said, you're the person we want leading it, having worked with him for years previously and knowing that all he wanted to do was make Watchmen again, which is exactly what this is all leading up to. The other thing I would say is, if this is the case, and then that's the audience he's playing to, and that's the game he's playing, it's a very dangerous game.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not saying from a point of view of filmmaking wise. I'm just saying, if we start enabling a relationship where the auteur, as he will call himself, and the fan base then feel like they have the God-given right to have the movies they want at whatever point they want them, that's a slippery slope, particularly with a fan base that is as vociferous and as aggressive as a lot of this fan base seems to be.
I don't think that this is going to be something that happens very often, though. I think this is.
Oh no, I don't think it'll happen very often. I think it will just happen with this a lot.
I genuinely think this will be a one-time thing. That this has happened because a movie was. I know that there's petitions for like release the Ayer cut for Suicide Squad and do all this, that, and the other, but it's not like. I genuinely think this is like a one-time occurrence. This is not going to happen again, and people aren't going to say like, let's say, restore the Snyderverse, give me Justice League 2, give me Justice. That's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen because I can't see Warner, especially Warner Brothers, knowing how like shit their relationship has been with Snyder over the last 10 years or so. They're not going to go back and go, yeah, because this got a good reception from the people that we knew that were going to praise it. we're going to again give you 2 and 3. They did it because they were probably getting a fucking shitload of grief from everyone and just went, fine, just do what you want and that's it. Let's be done with it. I don't think that this is going to set a precedent for the rest of what's to. I hope not, but I don't think that it's going to set a precedent for what's to come in future years.
True, but you've already said it yourself. Like, it's obvious what he's done in this film. Like, he's basically saying, here's the blueprint for what my universe will look like. Don't you want more of this?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, that he will. Of course, he's going to. He's already said that he's done with it. He's already said he wants to move on, which I don't agree. I don't think is true. But
my hashtag of continue the Snyderverse.
He also said he only filmed 4 minutes of additional footage, and he also said that the original cut was 214 minutes, and he found an extra half an hour.
But I don't, like I said, I just don't think this is something that we're going to get any more of. Like, I just can't see it happening.
Well, and can I say something now? I pray to God that you are right.
Oh no, and don't get me wrong. I think that this is a one-time thing that he can now say in his egotistical way. I did something that no one else has ever done. I managed to get my movie out after the original movie was created, and I did that off the back of fans. Like, no one, it's never going to happen again. So I don't think that it's worth even kind of contemplating going forward because it's just not going to happen. But I suppose I digress off the main point. We've gone on for 2 hours and 42 minutes. So I think we'll just now go over. Now we've dissected
so
it.
The second scene is basically...
What we'll do now is I just want you to give your overall assessment of your overall assessment of Zack Snyders Justice League in as many words as you want, but just not an essay.
Go ahead, Andy.
I feel there has to be something said for being able to get something that people wanted on screen. Like, there has to be something said that, great, you've done it. The way it was done, maybe, and the way that people have reacted to it is maybe not great. And there is a culture outside of this film that maybe we do need to look at. Another close thing, but if we look at the film as total, I think it is still over bloated. It's a mess. It's long. It's a film with no stakes, and I think it's important to look at that and go. At no point do I think any of these characters are in any real jeopardy because they are basically gods, and the only person who looks slightly tired is Bruce Wayne climbing up on a tower. Also, it's a film that makes me watch superheroes run upstairs, which is hilarious. But in terms of, does this film add anything new to this? No. Like, do I think that we needed this cut? No. Do I think that stylistically it's the greatest thing that's ever been on screen? No. What do I think? No. It's a hot mess. It's a hot mess. Like, would I watch this again? Like, is this a film that I would ever go back to? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like, if I was going to watch Justice League again, I would go back to the 2017 cut and I would watch that one. I wouldn't go back to this because at least the 2017, as much as it was all over the place, it was at least a ride. And a ride that has no inclines and no declines is a terrible ride. And that's what Zack Snyder's Justice League is.
Thank you,
Nick. Do you want to go next? Because I feel like we need something more positive before I have my words.
Yeah, so it was a film that I enjoyed watching. Obviously, I'd been waiting for it for a while. It's got its flaws. It's got some things that I like, some things that I wanted more of. So yeah, not great, just good. Simple.
Okay.
Thank you for that assessment, Alex.
I'll keep mine brief. I've already talked too much, and people in the comments don't like it.
Garbage fire.
I think people want me to shut up. By the way, yeah,
I think people are actually quite liking your candidness. If I'm being honest, Alex.
I will agree with.
We've learned to live with, but
whoever olfactophiles is, Shaun of the Dead versus Dawn of the Dead. Over Dawn of the Dead. Yes, absolutely. Shaun of the Dead's a superior film in every way. Anyway.
It is to most films, to be fair.
So Zack Snyders Justice League, as we true fans call it. I think the problems with the 2017 film still largely exist in the 2021 release. They might be slightly lessened by the fact that you've got longer to get to those plot points or whatever, and some of the plot actually makes more sense now in terms of the beats you're hitting. Does it add anything to the film? Not really. I don't feel like any of the additions in terms of the moments or the scenes that have been chucked in, I don't feel like any of those necessarily make a significant enough difference that I would ever go, oh, I can see that this is a valuable use of time. So yeah, for that same reason, I think whilst it may be a better crafted film in terms of the way it's structured than the 2017 film, it is less enjoyable, despite the fact that the first one wasn't enjoyable either. But I had at least some aspect of there was, I mean, hey, I like Dude Bro Aquaman, I guess. But for a film to come out after this long and be as close to the original as this one is, I don't see I genuinely don't see the impact that this is going to have. So for me, yeah, I mean, it's still the same disaster. It's happened twice now.
Alex,
and I'd always go back to the.
Can we get a Dragon's Den quote from you?
Dragon's Den quote? Oh, as in I'm out.
I'm out.
And that makes me out.
I like Alex's overall assessment is I miss Dude Bro Aquaman is essentially what you.
Hey, I would have never thought that would be the takeaway from this film. Is that I think maybe Aquaman is a good film now, which
go back.
2 days ago I would never have said, and yet now I might watch it this week.
Yes.
I think my overall assessment is that I think that this has things that the original doesn't have, but I think that the original has things that this doesn't have. The trade-off for me mainly is that there's more of a story. It feels more of a story is being told, and you get to dive into certain characters more. Characters a little bit more to understand them that you didn't in the last one. I think it tries to fix some of the characterizations of some characters whilst leaving other characters just alone, really. I really like the villains in the movie. I think for me, the villains are probably the best part for me in this movie that we didn't have in the original. And I think for me, I find it really hard. You know, when I get excited for something that I've been wanting for a while, I find it hard to look at it objectively. And so my excitement takes over. Seeing characters like this, I want to see them more all the time. And yes, I get that there are flaws in certain characters. I get the Flash is annoying. I get that, you know, Superman at times feels a little bit like he's not really very hopeful. And I get that Batman sometimes has nothing to do, but I've got them all on screen. And the child in me, the child that's grown up watching them goes, oh, they're all on screen. So, you know, that shines out for me more than anything. And I know that's not very productive as a movie reviewer or a reviewer of type. But when it comes to these types of things or these types of movies, my general bias does take over a little bit. So very much similar to Andy with you with Jurassic Park and those kind of things. Like you very much, you will always try to see the best in it.
Wait until I see Kong punch Godzilla. Like I'm just going to squeal.
I think so. My personal bias comes out in this that I enjoyed it. I don't want to ever watch the original again, even though I do think that it has some things that may have elevated this a little bit more, but I will never go back to watching that if I've got this. And I know that you obviously feel separate, but that's cool.
I'm planning not to go back to either, by the way.
Well, yeah, okay, then that's fine. But yeah, I'm happy that it's a thing. I'm happy that the movement is over for Zack Snyder. I'm happy he got his original version out. It can be laid to rest now. We can move on from it, and we can just crack on with whatever is in the pipeline now. I'm excited for the Flash. I'm excited for Shazam. I'm excited for some of the the other DC properties that are coming up without having this looming cloud over us that is the Snyder Cut. That is always kind of like in flux. It's done. It's over. I enjoyed it. Let's move on. That's
I
where I'm at.
think the main positive is the money they made for that charity. I think it was almost getting close to $1 million, wasn't it, for the suicide prevention?
Yeah. Yes. Which is also very, very nice. Very nice. And it was a nice little touching tribute at the end where it says "For Autumn," which was obviously very, very nice. And it's, there's been a lot of discussion within why Zack Snyder left the production. There's claims that he was sacked or he was fired or he left at his own accord because of obviously the family tragedy he had. And regardless of that, I'm happy that he got his movie out. Whether or not we like it or not, it's a personal triumph for him. And, more power to him as a filmmaker. Whether or not it's good is, I suppose, is an opinion that everyone's going to carry. And that's, our opinion, and we're entitled to it. For a personal victory for him, crack on. But it's done now. It's over, and we can, just have it. You can choose to take it or leave it at this point. So I am happy that we got it. There's things about it I like, things are very similar to Nick. Things about it I like, things about it I don't like. But yes, I like it more than the original. And that's how I think I will leave it. It will be a while before I go back to watching it because, let's be honest, it's a 4-hour movie. And, it's hard to find some time to do it anyway. But we got it. We're happy with it. We're not happy with it. Doesn't really matter. It's done. It's done now. And very much like this review, it's done. We're over. We want to thank you. I mean, we've been talking almost nearly as long as the movie, which is this is no.
Well, I've just looked it up, and they haven't even revived Superman at this point in the movie.
But no, we want to thank you for both for coming on. I know it's been we wanted you to come on and give us a bit of a general discussion because this review genuinely could have been about 20 minutes long if it was just me and Nick. So.
Can I just say, if anyone wants to actually hear us be positive about films, because I feel we come on here a lot as like a negative kind of with a negative.
Yeah, I don't like the portrait I'm portraying.
If you search the podcast out, it's Snyders Man Podcast on all the podcast apps. We have YouTube videos as well where we upload them. We do talk positive about films. We talk about The War with Grandpa very positively this week. But then again, we did watch that.
And hey, I'll always objectively look at a Iranian vampire movie and decide that, you know what, regardless of what anyone else thinks, they're always going to be great. So that's kind of my bag. So that might be why
we don't.
Yeah, we don't want to hear that.
We're using you as the Steppenwolf and Darkseid to our fashion cyborg here.
I don't like being your villains.
I like the villains. I did say I like these villains. So I like you too. So no, it's not all negative. Obviously, we say it in jest. But yeah, go check out the Dinosaur Man podcast. Like Andy said, it's on all the podcast sites. It'll be a pain to list them all, and I don't know them off the top of my head. So all of the podcasts
are basically everywhere. Amp was on the episode last week about WandaVision as well. So
yes, and I was there. I know that one. Yeah. So thanks very much for coming on. We appreciate it. It's been a good discussion, a good contrast, and I appreciate it, and you've gained some fans in the audience as well. Like Alex, someone likes your accent, they like your candidness.
Thanks.
It's the reason I keep him around. He is the positive aspect. I'm there for terrible opinions. He's there for at least he has a good voice.
Nick, was there anything else you wanted to say before we sign off?
No. Thanks for all coming on.
Right. Yep. So thanks very much for coming on. Thank you for staying in the chat. I know it's been a lengthy discussion, and I know we haven't really been talking to you guys in the chat, so we appreciate you sticking around to hear us discuss it. Hope you all have a nice week, and we'll see you all soon.
Release the sausage cut.
Release the sausage fest.
Release the sausage.
Good night, everyone.